Hello, hello, Shagat the Known here. Welcome back to another Rust coding stream here. What is this? Stream number 11. We're continuing the Rust roguelike tutorial with tcod, libtcod, and this should be the last one for real now. Last one ran a little bit long, and I decided to call an audible and slow things down a little bit instead of, cramming too much into one. So we'll see if we could get 3 lessons or 3 of the chapters done, but they look like they're a little lengthy, so we should be able to take care of that today. Just as a refresher, we have like an inventory system now. Of course, it spawns me. Oh, that's what I missed. Sorry. I was forgetting something. I sat there like staring awkwardly, like, what am I missing? We have like an inventory system now, where I can go here and I can get that scroll of fireball. We have a confusion scroll. We have healing potions. I believe that's a potion right there. And we can actually go in and use like the potion. I can use the scroll and like target a dude with it. Well, I gotta be careful because I will get hurt if I use the fireball. Scroll of lightning bolt's actually a bit safer. But we'll do scroll of fireball. And then I had to click on the dude. I prefer doing a keyboard targeting system if I'm playing a roguelike, but it's fine. We'll use the lightning bolt, instant kill that guy. Use our potion. That was very painful. Just wailed on me there for a bit. Confusion. So we're gonna confuse the closer guy. We're going to lightning bolt that guy. Take care of that man. Probably about to die, but it's okay. Let's see. Nice. Double kill. And here we are. We're dead. Okay. So that's kind of our progress now. Oh yeah, we also have like the menu and everything. I don't think that was there last time. We can actually save the game. A lot of fun extra stuff that wasn't here before. So I think that's really enough for recapping where we're at. So let's click over to the browser, not waste any time. I do want to actually make one comment because I talked about this last time, but I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole again. But I want to just bring back the idea of try to think in the context of what leads to decisions that are made. A tutorial makes the decisions for you. So that can leave you without the context of why something was done a certain way. So when the menu was originally designed, or well, I should say when the inventory was originally designed, it was designed in a way that would be extensible and usable for multiple things. We're now using it also for the main menu, as well as I think something else. I had to think about it. I think we're using it for another thing too, but we're using the menu for the inventory and the main menu because it is just a menu, and you can basically define things with oh right. I think on the main menu, if you try to load something, and there's like no existing data, we use the menu again. That might be what it is. So I think we're using it in 3 different places, and in that case, it just pops up a warning. There's no choices or anything, but we're still able to use the same function. So it's one of those things where if you were writing this for yourself for the first time, you've never done anything like this, you may not be thinking about how to create that menu in such a way that would be extensible and usable for multiple things. So that's fine. What you might end up doing is writing it and then writing a different function or writing a different piece of code somewhere, and at some point recognizing that there's some similarities between them and thinking about that common refactor. I know my first job out of school, we learned about something called the rule of 3. And it was basically if you're having to write something 3 separate times, it should probably be a function. You should probably have refactored it by that point. So that's a good example. Like, it might be okay to do something twice if that's all it's going to be. But if you're seeing that pattern of it happening multiple times, that's an idea of when to refactor. So that may be how you would come across that menu if you didn't have like a tutorial solving it for you. So anyway, we're going to try to do these 3 here, part 11, 12, and 13. So first we're going to be doing dungeon levels and character progression. We're going to let the player venture deeper into the dungeon and grow stronger, including experience gain, levels, and raising stats. And scroll bar here is kind of small, but I think the other lessons are even smaller, meaning the page is longer, right? So let's get started and not waste time. So what we have now is pretty much a playable game already. The next two parts will take it a big step forward by focusing on progression. We'll start with dungeon levels, then character progression, and finally on updating the monster and item placement. Second floor, please. A staple of roguelikes is the stairs, where the player must find to advance which the player must find to advance to the next dungeon level. We'll start by placing them when generating a level, right at the end of make map. Okay? So let's go ahead and click back over. I still need to get a slightly better way of doing some of this. I will do it soon. So I guess it's going to be before we push the room in, right? No, it's not. It's going to be part of the map. Yeah. So it's going to be right here. Create stairs at the center of the last room. And we're going to get the last room coordinates here. So we're going to get last room X and Y. And we're going to get rooms.len -1 center. And that's standard, right? We just access the last thing in the array. Is there a reason we're accessing it that way? Rooms.last is also a thing. Whatever. Just questioning. Showing another way we could do it. So we're going to make a new object. And it's going to be at last room X, last room Y. I feel like this is in a weird spot. Scoot it a little bit. I guess you don't really see it like I do. So we make something called stairs, we make them white, we give it the... I heard something recently, they called it a left caret. I like that. I like it better than less than or greater than, honestly, because I always have to mentally map out which one is which when I think about what to call it. So we're doing this always visible thing, which is new. Oh, whoops, I gave it a string, not a character. And this always visible thing is new, so we're gonna take a look at that in a moment for sure. It's like I know what less than and greater than are, right? But I just, for some reason, I have to like try to mentally map out, like if I were typing it, which one would I type? Like this number, that symbol, that, okay, it's less than. I always have to think of it. So as you can see, it's a regular object. We must now let the player go down the stairs when standing on them and presses the left caret key, presses the less than key. It's easy to add this check at the end of handle keys. So let's go ahead and head over to handle keys. We still haven't done the always visible thing, but I don't really like when they add something and don't immediately address it. Like, I don't care about handling keys until we address that new field that was added. If I'm being honest, that's kind of how I feel about it. So what we're going to do here is add another match for that right there. And we're going to do a couple things here. So we're going to say right here, if player on stairs. And then up here, we need to define what it means for a player to be on the stairs. So all right, so we're gonna set that variable. So objects.iter.any object. So we're just gonna map on that. We're looking for an object that matches the player position and that it's the stairs. And if we found something that did that, then the player's on the stairs, basically. So then we're going to need a new function here. Next level, tcod game objects. Yep, and it's mad because we don't have that. We'll create it in a moment, I'm sure. Looks like that's the next thing we're going to do. I'm still mad about always visible. When are we going to make that? I know it's just a Boolean, but I don't know why we aren't doing it yet. There it is. It's way down there. Okay, well, anyway. The most important bit's the next level function. We need to generate a brand new level when the player goes down and move the player onto it. We'll also heal the player because we're feeling generous. So here's our next level function. We're going to go ahead and slap that in here. We're going to do it right before main, where I always put functions, apparently. Wow, it's getting pretty beefy in here. Well, we are almost done, though. So there won't be too many more of these. But it's getting pretty beefy in here. So next level needs tcod. Needs the game. Objects, which is the vec of object. Still making the same typo for whatever reason. So we're going to add a message that says you take a moment to rest and recover your strength. It's going to be a violent message because that's what the tutorial gods say right now. And then we're going to come up with like how much we're going to heal. So heal HP, let heal HP equal objects player. Looks like we're going to heal about half of our, yeah, we're going to heal half of our health. And I feel like something is missing. Oh, I called that object. Yeah, that's what's missing. I was like, fighter not lighting up was bothering me, and I knew it was going to break things. So it's an arbitrary choice. We're healing half of whatever the max health is. It could be whatever. We could divide it by 4. We could pick some more complex value. We could heal back up to max if we wanted. It doesn't really matter. And then here we're going to add another message. After a rare moment of peace, you descend deeper into part of the dungeon. That, I think that's going to do what I want it to. Okay. And lastly, game.dungeon level plus equal 1. So we start on some value and we're just going to increment it by 1. Game.map equal make map objects. Initialize FOV. tcod. And it just wants the game. There says map. We actually take in game on mine, so whatever. There's a little bit of inconsistency still in the tutorial, so we improvise when needed. So you can try it out now. No, we can't, because there's all this broken code that doesn't exist yet. Dungeon level is not created yet, and like I know how to create that, but it's not created yet. And nor is the always visible. You're missing code for us to try it out. Again, these are fields that are easy to add, but we're going to just keep pressing on. You can try it out now. We do generate stairs and let the player go deeper, but you'll notice that the items and monsters from the old level are still here, sometimes lodged in a wall. The reason we're seeing old objects is because we never removed them from the object's vec. So we need to remove everything except for the player. Put this in make map right after we create the empty map. And then so yeah, player is going to be the first element, remove everything else. And then this only works if the player is the first object. But we are essentially hard coding that into the structure of the game. So it's no big deal. And we're going to put this right after making the empty map. So right here. Let's get an extra tab on that. And then assert equal objects player as star const. Okay, so what we're doing here is, well, I'll explain in a moment. So we're gonna do truncate as well, which is something that I've like never had to use. But basically, so truncate should just lop everything off after that many elements. So it's the length of elements, it's not the index. So it's just saying keep one element, keep the first thing, truncate everything else, throw it away. And then what we're doing here is actually this like casting it as to a constant into a constant pointer of like whatever, and comparing it just to make sure that they both give us the same thing. So if we get objects player with our like constant value player, and if we get this value here from object 0, we should have the same thing. This allows us to actually compare the two raw objects basically, instead of checking against their values, right? We're actually checking the equality of the two objects by doing this casting here. So let's go ahead and click back over now. So yeah, luckily Vec has the truncate method, which leaves the first n elements and removes everything else. Since your player is always the first object in the list, this just works. The assert is there to make sure the first object's indeed the player. The program will panic otherwise, making sure you address it if you change your game layout at some point. By the way, this is how you test for a pointer equivalence in Rust. You convert ordinary Rust references to raw pointers, star const object in this case, and compare those. It's safe because we never dereference them. As a bonus, the compiler can infer the type of object, so you can just put the underscore and it will fill it in. If you want to let the player go back up, you may want to keep track of the map and objects at the previous levels so they stay the same. Yeah, so that would essentially be a separate data structure where it would be like a list of maps, and then you would index into the map for whatever level you're currently on in the dungeon. That would be a very simple way to do it. We're not going to go through that unless that comes up here. But we'll also want to keep track of the dungeon level the player's on. Let's add a variable to game and set it to 1 when we start the game and increase it when we go deeper. So then in new game, we'll just have to set the value. And then in next level, before calling make map, I think we already did that, but we'll double check. So we'll go ahead and head back over and take care of this. So right here, dungeon level, U32. Well, we don't want negative levels? Come on. So we'll redefine the game. We want to say dungeon level 1. And then in make map, or not make, before calling make map, excuse me. Next level. We already did that here. Yeah, we did that here. So we're good. And then we can also display the level in the GUI. So we're going to go to render all. Just so we can keep track on the GUI. Have a nice little idea of where we're at in the game, basically. How far we've made it. So we're going to do this right after render bar. We're going to say tcod.panel.printex 1 3 background flag. Now once again, when you're talking about like these positions and stuff like we're seeing here, text alignment and positions and all that, why are we picking these values? It's basically trial and error. You just got to figure out what looks right. You just gotta like put some values in, maybe draw a picture out and kind of map out where you think things are gonna go, and then you have to do trial and error. and just say, well, that doesn't quite look like I want it to look, so let's try something a little different, and eventually you'll settle on something that looks right in terms of positioning and all that. So finally, it'd be great to always show the stairs once discovered, so the player can explore the rest of the map before going down. So let's allow some objects to be always visible as long as they're on a tile that's already been explored. We can add always visible to object, and we'll initialize it to false in object new. Yeah, so it's false by default. That's what we're going to do. So then we don't have to set it everywhere. We only have to set it in that one place where we're using it. Okay, so let's go ahead and take care of that. Where do we want to put it? Last thing, okay. Oh, whoops, not false. Bool. And then in fn new, so we initialize it to false. Everything else is pretty happy. And then we'll update render all to take that into account. So building the to draw vector, deciding what we are supposed to draw and not supposed to draw. We're going to update the filter. So tcod.fov, so is it in the FOV? Or o.alwaysVisible and game.map o.x as you size o.y as you size explored. So this is nice because it actually means that we can make other things that are always visible. It's not just the stairs, right? We didn't hard code it to say like that its name is stairs and we've explored it or something, right? We've added a field so something else could feasibly be always visible as well. And we could do some interesting things here. So I would bring up Cataclysm Dark Days Ahead, or really other roguelikes that have the concept of memory, where when you discover portions of the map, you like still remember certain things about them sometimes. You could build in a concept of memory like this, and maybe even forget things too over time. Have something last a certain amount of time in your memory maybe, and then eventually it no longer is visible. I mean, you could do some interesting things like that. So anyway, also I have to add mute to let's, okay, wait. It scrolled down on me, sorry. So yeah, we update render all, and we add that check, and then, so we keep the old is in FOV, but now we can also show the object if it's always visible and an explored tile. So let's set always visible to true to stairs and make map. I think we already did that. You also have to add mute to stairs to let stairs align above. And let's do the same for items too, and place, okay, so there's some discrepancies here because we already made the stairs mutable and we already did this because the tutorial told us to, but it's okay. And let's do the same for items too, and place objects before, oh, items are gonna stay visible, that's what we're saying? Yeah, okay, we're gonna make items always visible. So let's go to that, let mute item, nope. Let mute item equal if. What? Okay. Dice. Oh, I didn't make it mutable. Yeah, it's not mutable yet. Let mute item. And then just before we push it in, item.alwaysVisible equal true. Now the item must be, yep, the item is mutable. It's just telling me on the tutorial, but we already did that. We know that it must be mutable, yes? So let's go ahead and run it, and let's check it out. Play a new game. I swear I always try to use the numpad. Oh, I should have left the item there. It's okay, though. Yep, they are still showing up. And if we find the stairs, let's just poke around here until I find them. Okay, what do I have? Lightning bolt, let's go. Oof. Run. I'm just trying to find some stairs, bro. There they are. Oof. Bad move. Scroll of confusion. Confuse the troll. All right. And I go. Okay, and we're on a new level now. Sweet. So I healed up a little bit as we expected, and we're here. If it would be cool to have like sprinting mechanics or something where we can move faster. Oh, nope, here we are. Let's go again. Yeah! We're on dungeon level 3 already. Look at that, we're doing great. But nothing's really different about the levels, so I'm pretty sure we're about to address that soon enough. This lesson is called what? Character progression. No, monster progression is next. Is going to be in a different lesson, I think. Yeah, this is lesson 11 right now. That's or part 11. Monster progression is going to be part 12. So we'll do it though. We'll do it soon enough. All right, character progression. With being able to go into deeper levels, a player character now feels a bit static. Let's track their experience and allow to level up. We'll put a new experience field into the fighter struct. And when setting the orc and troll's fighter component in place objects, we'll add 35 and 100 experience respectively. Feel free to plug your own values here. So we'll do that. So sometimes there's big blocks of code like this that are really just changing a couple quick values, which is nice because that actually, it inflates how large this part looks because it's just, okay, we're changing two things, basically. So we should be mad down here. So we're going to say XP is 35 and XP is 100. Right, yep, okay. And then back over. So we've just done that. We've set the orc and the troll experience, and then we'll have to set players' XP in a new game to something as well. Let's put a 0 in, and we'll use it to track the player's experience. Now, I find this to be an interesting system. I'm going to go ahead and comment on it. I don't 100% like that we're using the same experience field to track what a monster is worth, as well as what it takes for us to level up. I think that's a bit odd. But it works. It's a simple system, but I would kind of rather have two separate values. Like, I kind of understand because I guess it makes sense. A fighter can level up, but whatever. I'm going down a rabbit hole. It kind of makes sense, but it also to me doesn't. I feel like they're two different values. Something is worth a certain amount of experience, and they have a certain amount of experience, so it's like two different things. But we'll just go with it. So let's go to the fighter component, or not the fighter component. Yeah, player.fighter. That's why. Here we are. And we'll have to set the experience here to 0. No, I want all the free experience. What you talking about? No 0. Take damage. Now update take damage to return experience points when a monster's killed. So it's actually going to be an option. And how are we going to do this? Do the on-death callback, and then we just return. Just return that right there, I think. And then down here, none. So nothing died. That's why it's optional, right? Because we're taking damage, it's not dying. We're only taking damage, and it may or may not die. Cool. So yeah, that's all we did. We added the option there. And then in the case where something died, we return that experience. And in the case where nothing died, we just return none. Now an attack, when an attacker kills their target, let's increase their experience by replacing the target.takeDamage call with okay, let's just go and do it rather than, we'll need to do the same in a couple other places too. So I'll do all of these together. So where is this at? FN attack. That's right there. Replacing the target.take damage call with something else. So if let some, oh, I know what we're doing. So we're getting the experience value out of that optional return that we just did. So we're still going to do target.take damage, but remember if let will just rip out the value from the option, and we're naming it XP. We can name it garbage bag. Like, this is a name, right? This is not, this is just a unique, or this is an identifier that we're creating right now, so it's not tied to any pre-existing fields or anything. I'm doing this more for myself as well on that point, because I'm still, like, I need to use if let more, and I'm trying to just drill this in. Yield experience to the player, which is self.fighter.asmute.unwrap XP plus equal XP. But it's not called XP, it's called garbage bag. Because again, it's just whatever you want to call it, right? So let's actually rename that to XP though. The idea though is, that's to me a nice way to be able to say, well, we may not get experience back, so the only time that we're going to go in here and add the experience is in that case. That if let is a nice compact way of doing it. We need to do the same in the other two places we're calling take damage, so we have cast lightning. So how are we going to do this here? We're just going to do if let some XP equal, do that for lightning damage, and it's going to be like exactly the same. We do that there for lightning damage, and then the cast fireball function as well, but fireball is going to be tricky, and let's find out why. I know why, because fireball attacks multiple dudes. It can destroy multiple things. So we did this in a loop here where we do object.take damage. So I'm curious, is this going to be a case where we're doing double mutability because we're mutating the player and we're muting? Yeah, maybe that's what's happening. Let's find out. So I'll actually click back over and read what they say first. So we just updated the attack for the player, and we did it for lightning, cast lightning. So now the cast fireball function is going to be slightly trickier because we don't want to give the player experience for burning themselves, and we can't modify the player inside the loop because the object's effect is already mutably borrowed. Yeah. So it's like, I didn't think about the player burning themselves, but I mean, if they die, they die. I don't think that really matters. The only time you get experience is when something dies. So kind of whatever, I guess. Or are you saying don't give them any experience? Well, we'll see how it goes. So whenever we get experience from take damage, we'll add it to a variable and then give it all to the player afterward. That seems easy enough, right? Let's do it. So they're just building out this let mute XP to gain 0. That's like a decent enough way to do it, right? And then, yeah, it's going to be the same if let sum here. If let sum experience equals that, and then we just go in here. If ID not equal player, don't reward the player for burning himself. XP to gain plus equal XP. So it's essentially an accumulator variable, but we also need this ID, so it's going to be, instead of just objects, mute and enumerate, and instead of obj, it's going to be ID and obj. And now after we're done here, we say object player fighter as mute unwrap XP plus equal XP to gain. So this as mute converts it from, okay, right. This is converting it from a mutable reference to the option to an option of a mutable reference to the thing inside the option. So when we do this unwrap, it's getting us a mutable reference to the actual like fighter that we have on the player. May seem confusing, and it's because it kind of is. So the way I would try to break it down is if you just tried to modify, you'd be modifying like a reference. I'm not sure. Ooh, now I'm curious. Like, I think I understand it, but at the same time, I don't see why it wouldn't work the other way. Let's see, objects, player dot fighter dot unwrap. Let test equal. Oops, I did that again. It gives us the fighter. Oh no, I understand why. Because we need the mutable. Yeah, we need to mutate it. Because then I can't just say let mute, can I? Yeah, I can't just say let mute. Because then if I try to do test dot xp plus equal. Yeah, that's why. I feel stupid now. It's when you're trying to get that mutability in there. Okay, sorry. Things happen. Wires get crossed. It's been a long week. Alrighty. So yeah, basically though, this to me was simple enough. We build an accumulator type variable. We do ID and object here by doing itermute and enumerate. And we just do the same if let construct here, but we add to an accumulator if it's not the player. Again, I'm still curious. Maybe the idea is that what if the player killed themselves? And yeah, that might happen because the player might have accumulated a lot of experience and then it would level themselves up and heal them or something goofy like that. I don't know. Whatever though. So then we just add that accumulated value to the player's experience. I'm wondering if a fold or something would work on that. It would be a bit of a complex fold, but folds, like you have like an accumulator value when you do a fold. So it might be a thing to try, but let's not go down that rabbit hole. Okay, so what can the player do with all this experience they're getting now? Well, level up, of course. First, we need to keep track of the player's level. We'll add it as another field to object so that monsters and items can have levels too if we decide to use them later. But you could add it into game just as easily. Yeah, so I like the idea of attaching it to the player because then, like I said, anything can have that, right? So we're going to put it down here on the end. Now, why are we doing I32? And in the new here, we're going to initialize to 1. And then here's where things might get a little interesting. Typically, you need more experience to level up the higher you get. Let's set the starting point to 350 and then require 150 for every new level. So the formula is 200 plus player dot level times 150. Yeah, that works. Add constants so it can be easily tweaked later. All right, let's do that. So we're going to have a level up base and a level up factor constant here. Copy those in because they're basic enough. And then we need a level up function. So let's go all the way down to where main is hanging out. I feel like I could almost zoom in one more. It's so large, but on my end, but I think it's probably easier to read. So we're going to make this level up. And it's going to take a bunch of things. It's going to take tcod. It's going to take game. Objects. I did the semicolon on objects like I always do. I think we're good. And we're going to say let player equal and mute. So we're just going to get the player out of this. And then we're going to let level up experience equal, and then this is the formula. So level up base plus player dot level times level up factor. Simple formula. It's like pretty linear, so I don't think it would work very well in like a, you know, super real game. I don't think it would be a great formula, but it's good for this demo. Because typically as you go through the game, monsters are worth more experience, and if you're only needing like an extra if you're only needing, what is it, an extra 150 per level, you're fighting monsters that are worth thousands, like that's dumb. So you'd want a curve basically where levels start taking more and more. Okay, so what are we doing here? We're gonna do this map or fighter as ref. It gets us, yeah. So this is, once again, it gets us to the inner fighter itself. Okay. And then we get the experience, so the default 0, or we get whatever experience is coming out of there. And level XP up, level up XP. Player level plus equal 1, simple enough. Game.messages.add, not ass, almost mistyped. All right, so we'll just put that in there and we'll add player.level to that message. Make it yellow. Then to do. Whoop. Oh, no, cancel. I fat fingered. We're good though. All right, we format that and let's take a look back over here. So yeah, the function, it levels up the player if they have enough experience. Basically, all we do is we get the player, we get a reference to the player, and we figure out how much experience they need with our little formula. We get a reference to the fighter and grab the experience from that, or a default value of 0. And if that's greater or equal to how much experience we need to level up, then we increase the level. Simple enough. And then we add a message, and then eventually we're going to increase some stats. So if the player has enough experience, we'll increase their level and print out a message. Let's give them an actual gameplay bonus. Using the menu function, we'll give them 3 choices to increase the health, attack, or defense. Put this in place of the to-do comment. Oh man, didn't mean to scroll that much. Put this in place of the to-do comment. And there's a big old block here. Let's take a look at it. So we will have to build this whole thing out. How's it going, Tusk? So we're going to get the fighter component. And so far we're going to say we don't have any choice. So we're going to set that to none. I am doing okay. So we're going to keep asking until a choice is made. So yeah, if the player fails to make a choice, basically we're forcing them to. And so we're going to say choice equal menu. All right. And then here are our options. So it's going to be 3 formats. Just like that. Constitution plus 20 HP. All right, there's one. What's the next one going to be here? So strength is attack, and we're just going to print out what our current strength is, I guess. And then lastly, it's going to be agility. And what else do we need? Level, screen width, which doesn't exist yet. And mute tcod root. Yep, it's mad. We'll have to make that constant in a moment. And then basically, we're forcing them to do this until they make an actual choice. And then once we have that, we could say fighter.xp minus equal level up xp. Oh, so we're actually resetting it back to 0. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. But by doing it that way, it leaves any overflow we had. So that's actually nice. So we only have a few different options here. We have 0, fighter.max HP plus equal 20. And then fighter.HP plus equal 20. We have 1, and that's going to be our strength. And we have 2, which is going to be our defense. And then we have everything else unreachable, which I guess is going to panic. It's useful anytime that the compiler can't determine that some code is unreachable. Yeah, it'll panic if it somehow ever gets there. Well, that's good. We should never get there, right? And we'll need the new constant level width screen. So let me go ahead and just copy that, and we're going to add it up at the top. I don't think I need to click over just to say we're going to add a constant. We'll add it right here with the other experience and level up stuff. And then in the main loop, play game, we'll call level up right after flush. Where is flush? Okay, so right after flush, we'll do that. And let's just click back over real quick. So just recapping everything that was just done here. We did level up, and then we wanted to make the menu that actually lets us pick between 3 different things to raise: our health, our strength, or our defense. And then we actually make those changes depending on what they picked. We add that constant, which is going to define how wide the screen should be, the menu should be. And then we call that every time we go through the main loop and play game, just to make sure if we should level up or not. Actually, I'm going to add that comment, level up if needed. Right. And yeah, so the player can now level up, but it would be great to show the current stats somewhere. Let's display a little message box when the C key is pressed. So we're going to add another thing in handle keys, which means I'm going to just copy another existing key and we'll work with it. It's an easy enough way to do it, right? We'll grab, oh, no, calm down. We'll grab D, and we'll add C. It's going to be show character information. And then, like, most of this is going to be killed. So, yeah, let's just rip this stuff out. So, we're going to need the player. And we're going to need the level. We're going to need level up experience. Level up base plus player dot level times level up factor. And then we're going to say if let sum fighter equal player dot fighter as ref. This is a beefy format here. So they're not putting slashes. We're going to see how this prints. We're going to try it. They went like that, and then they went over here. Try and copy the way they're doing it. All right, that works. And then what do we need? Level fighter dot experience, level up experience, fighter dot max, health, fighter dot power. We kind of already know what our max health is, though. I don't see why we need to reprint it, but I'll accept it. So yeah, that string doesn't get formatted away because it's actually retaining the information about the new lines and all that. So it should be okay. After this, we're going to do message box. Character screen width. Guess what we're going to have to add in a moment. And we didn't take a turn. Yeah, so this will build a multi-line string that we use the message box to show. We'll need to define the new constant at the top of the file, and then it should all work. So it's just going to be a width of 30 there. And do I want to run it? Let's run it. It's been a little bit since we've ran. Whoops, I opened the wrong window there. It's been a little bit since we ran, so let's give it a try here. Everything's happy. There we are, character information. Level 1, experience 0. We need 350 to level up. Max health is 30, attack is 5, defense is 2. And we now have 105 experience already. We're going to be leveling up very quickly, aren't we? Let's try to heal up and not die, though. Okay, where's our healing potion? How are we doing on the level? 275 of 350. Okay, what do I have? I got that fireball. I hope it doesn't hit me. Yeah, we're good. Okay, so I leveled up. And then we can choose a stat to raise. We're going to do agility for defense. Cool. Battle skills grow stronger. You reach level 2. Okay. And we'll use that potion. Would have been nice to heal up a little bit, but I got a game plan here. Oh, we're playing this for the long term. Watch this. Because there's a cheese to this system. If you level up your defense enough, you'll just be invincible. My favorite kind of cheese. There's the stairs. We could take them. How are we doing? We need 500 to level up. We have 305. Okay. Actually, that's not terrible for the level up because the way it worked was a little bit different than I expected. Okay, I leveled up again, so we're gonna do agility. And now, like, the trolls and stuff are significantly weaker. See, this guy can't even hurt me. That's the game plan, basically. If you give me some trolls to fight, I'll level up quickly. Yeah, these guys can't even hurt me now, because they suck. I still say, though, that level up system needs a bit of work. I misunderstood how it was going to be handled, though. Oh, the troll can't even hurt me anymore. Yeah, I'm stronger than even the trolls now. So, I've won the game. I'm invincible. Maybe not from my fireballs. Probably need a bunch of level ups to be invincible from that, but... I am invincible from the enemies now. So now I can level up strength and just start like one-shotting everything, and then it's fun. I like it because it makes me feel overpowered. You can start leveling up like health and all kinds of stuff. Now, I think a fun thing to do would actually be to come up with some formulas to change how much your stats level up, maybe, particularly health. 20 health per level is a little low if you're going to be playing a long-term game where you might want thousands of health. So, and you're having to pick every time. So I think it'd be nice to have something in place to maybe say, okay, your health increases by some proportion to whatever your current health is. How close are we to leveling up? 800? Oh, good. We're almost there. We're going to go for it real quick. I want to get that one last bit of strength. We'll stop. This isn't a gameplay stream, even if it is one that I made. Alright, strength. We now have 7 strength. I don't remember how much health the trolls have. Let's find out. 1 hit. And... so I dealt 6 damage to him. Another 6. And another 6. So he's dead. Okay. He can't hurt me. It still takes 3 hits to kill him, so... take quite a few level ups to be able to one-shot them. Can I one-shot the orcs now? Not quite. I deal 7 damage to them, though. Not bad at all, right? Okay, let's stop this now. And let's click back over. We're just about done with this session, with this lesson. So it would also be nice if we showed how much experience did the player get for slaying a monster. We can modify the log message in monster death. Look at that. We're just going to add another thing to the format. So, monster death. And Blink is dead. You gain experience points. That's really it. Yeah, nothing else to it. All right. And then... finally, completely unrelated to the character progression, but let's add diagonal movement. Oh my god, thank you. And sleep command using the keys on the numpad. The key codes for the numpad keys are numpad 0 to numpad 9. So in handle keys, we'll replace the existing movement code with this. Do I want to type that? I'm pretty adamant about, like, you should type your code and not copy, but like, oh, that's repetitive. We're also doing page down and end and home and stuff. Those are interesting keys. So we do up, down, left, right, and we have 8, 2, 4, and 6. Okay, well, we'll look into it. So we are changing the movement in an interesting way. We're combining some. Okay, so where's handle keys? So instead of just saying up, we're also going to say or key code numpad 8 dot dot. Just like that. And I want to take that or with the numpad 8 and I'm going to slap it here. And I'm going to slap it here. And I'm going to slap it here. Okay, so up is 8, so there's going to be 2, right? Yeah. There's going to be 4 to go left, and it's going to be 6 to go right. And then we want diagonals. So they're using home, page up. They're using some interesting ones here. And I'm going to be a little lazy and just copy those in because it's a lot to type over and over. And honestly, if you were writing this, you'd probably copy and edit lines rather than literally type everyone out. You'd copy one of these and modify it. So basically, we're saying if you press home or numpad 7, you'll go up and left because it's -1 in each direction. And basically the same for everything else, right? Numpad 9 or page up goes up and right. Numpad 1 goes down and left. Numpad 3 goes down and right. And then I will type this one. We're going to add that sleep command. So key code numpad 5. Now, I don't think it actually means sleep as in, you know, go to sleep. I think it means skip a turn. So you can let something walk closer to you and then they'll take a turn. This is a common roguelike strategy where you make something walk up next to you so then you get an attack on them before they get to attack you. So took turn. Do nothing. I.e. Oh, it actually says that. Wait for the monster to come to you. Alrighty, now I didn't remember that we actually added this movement, but I'm so happy we did. So yeah, we got all this in here now. And it says now we can use arrows and numpad to move around, and pressing 5 will let you skip a turn and have the monster come to you. So let's go back to the code here and let's take a look at it in action. I mean, you won't see how my movement differs, but take a look at it in action. Oh yeah, that's better. And monsters have been able to move diagonally, and I haven't. So they've actually had a big advantage the whole game so far. And so it's, you know, nice that they no longer have that advantage. All right. No more potions for me. Yep, I just wait for them. I can attack diagonally now. So they're not able to like walk towards me while I'm trying to position, or they're not able to attack me while I'm trying to position to do an attack on them, basically. Because that was always like an issue, and that was leading to me dying a bunch more. So that's a good change, and it feels more like a proper roguelike. So what are we looking at experience-wise? We need 950. We're at 810, it looks like. So let's get a level up before we bounce. Super close. Come on, let's do this. We also find the stairs. It's nice that we could resume the game from our save, and since we didn't change any integral logic to like the map gen or anything like that, it's basically we can make changes to some of the core functionality, right? But it's still, all of this is still valid to play. So I kind of like that. Okay, quit. And let's go back to the browser. We are an hour in, 1 lesson down. So let's go ahead and check out, or 1 chapter down, 1 part. Let's check out the next one. We'll try to do 2 more today. I think we can manage, but I'm gonna give me some water. So part 12, monster and item progression. Deeper dungeon levels become increasingly more difficult. Here we create the tools for dealing with chances and making them vary with level. Random choices. Now that the player character can become stronger, the challenges that await should become harder too. It would be nice if the type and quantity of monsters would vary with the dungeon level as well as the items. This discovery is a great way to entice the player to go forward, wondering if around the next corner is something he or she has never seen before. Before going further though, let's have a look at how we're deciding which item to place on the map. So what we're doing now is we make a dice, which it's not like an object, it's not like a struct or anything, it's just a value. It's a random float. It's a random F32. And all that means is it's a random value between 0 and 1. So then we check against that value, and we say if it's less than 0.7, that means there's a 70% chance of making a healing potion. And then we say if it's less than 0.8, so that's a 10% difference. Then if it's less than 0.9, that's another 10% difference. And then anything else, that's the remaining 10% difference. So that's how we determine like the scrolls. So we're basically building up our percentages to 100, if that makes sense. As we add more items, this will be harder to maintain. Every time we add one, we have to change the probabilities in all the if checks. It'd be much nicer if we could define a loot table. Luckily, the Rand crate supports this using the weighted choice distribution. I actually may have mentioned that a while back on the in this tutorial because I've used that in the past. It's really nice. So first, we specify the random table as an array of weighted choice structs. Okay, so where are we're gonna put it in place objects. Okay, so let's go to place objects. And then we basically are defining the weight of everything, and then it just figures everything out for you, really. So I guess we're going to put this near like the top here because we don't want to redefine it every iteration of the loop. So we'll say monster random table. Let monster chances equal and mute. Weighted. Say weight 80. Item orc. And we'll have another one, weighted weight 20, item troll. Now, if I remember correctly, weights do not have to add up to 100. And then monster choice. We want to do monster choice in here, basically. The way they're doing this is a little bit messy looking. Okay, yeah, I see how we're going to do it. So let monster choice equal weighted choice new, and then we give it that table. We'll probably put it right here when we know that we want to place a monster, and then we'll use this here. So instead of doing it this way, we'll do a match. I'm gonna sloppily refactor this, okay? So we're gonna match on the weighted choice, right? Or on the monster choice. End sample. Oh no, okay, no, I think we do want to do this at the top. Okay. So monster choice lets us repeatedly sample it. Okay. So let's define monster choice up here. All right, so end sample, generate a random value, and mute rand thread RNG. Okay, so then we don't need to do that roll anymore. But the code is not happy because we're in a match block and it does not know what any of this code means in that context. So we're gonna have to fix that. So basically, that opening there can be part of my match. This one can be another. So again, this is a sloppy refactor. But bear with me and I'll break down what's happening. That's actually almost good. Okay, that. Okay, and then I just need another line up here to say orc. Everything just magically got happy. It's a sloppy refactor, but it works. So what are we doing now? So let's take a look at it. Because there's a lot of red there, and I had a mental idea of what I wanted to do, but it's kind of difficult to explain as I was going. So it used to be like we're generating a value and checking against it. Otherwise, make a troll, you know, so then it was like an 80% chance of getting an orc, right? So it's like generate a float. If it's less than 0.8, give us an orc, else give us a troll. Well, now we can add more because we're doing this match statement here. And the way it basically works is we generate this table of monster chances. And we say the weight of an orc is 80, the weight of a troll is 20. That adds up to 100. I don't think it has to add up to 100, but the way you think about those weights is essentially that an orc has 4 times the chance of happening than a troll. And then we get this weighted choice thing, which we basically feed in that table we created with all the weighted options, which in this case it's really just an array, but we feed in that table of the weighted options to weighted choice, and then weighted choice lets us take a sample, right? So when we take a sample, this is a generic thing. It's going to give us back a T, which in this case is whatever item is, right? So it's going to give us back that string. And then we can do a pattern match on that string with this match statement here. So it's a long way of saying that this table basically has defined the weights, the percentages, and then we can match against whichever thing we get from it when we take that independent sample. And because Rust match statements are really cool, we could do orc, we could do troll, like we can actually match against those strings, and then none of the code changes, right? So literally instead of like where it used to be if roll something orc, well, it wasn't that part, but like this was all the orc code, and then right after this highlighted bit was else, and then it was like all this troll code. Well, we just put those into some match arms. So hopefully I didn't make that too confusing, but yeah, whatever, I'm trying. Nice. You just got an ad that was just the news. Like it wasn't even... Okay. Whatever. Anyway. We put that in place objects. Yeah, and now it's going to explain this a little bit more. So we can call monster choice to independent sample, and it will return orc 80% of the time and troll the rest. The numbers in weighted.weight aren't percentages, though. Exactly. We could just as easily have said 8 for orc and 2 for troll, or even 4 and 1. The number just means chances relative to each other, so you can use whichever ratio you fancy. And again, that means, like I said, they don't have to add up to 100. Anyway, as usual, we need to import the new types. We need to bring the independent sample trait into scope as well, which I guess I brought that in automatically. Let's double check. Yeah, the code's not mad, so it should be fine. Oops, I did a cargo.run, but yeah, it built, so we're good. All right, back over here then. And now let's fix the monster random generation for a bunch of ifs to a neat match block, which... Wait a minute. Oh no, I already did that. Okay. Sorry, I got a little bit ahead of myself there, but no, it's all good. So yeah, instead of the ifs now, it's a much neater piece of code. Here's like a really nice way to see it visualized without all the extra stuff there. If we got an orc, we do some orc code. If we got a troll, we do some troll code. Very simple. You can imagine how you would add Satan or something, right? Like you can add another thing in there. The orc control blocks will contain the same code as the if-else blocks before. Unreachable branch is there because in Rust all match statements must be exhaustive. They must cover all the possibilities. Since we're matching on a string here, we need to handle the case where the string is neither orc nor troll. We know that can't happen because we've only specified those two possibilities in monster chances, but Rust can't figure that out. If you want to avoid this issue, you can define an enum for each monster type like we do with item type for items, and then we match on the enum instead of a string. So let's do items next to show that off. Anyway, or when I say anyway, so again, we define the item chances table. So let's go ahead and do that. So where are the items coming in at? Right here. You are looking at code, right? Yeah. So yeah, let's do this before we start populating items. So we're going to say item random table. It's going to be let item chances equal and mute. I actually made a little tool for somebody when they were doing a Dungeons and Dragons game that used the weighted distributions from this as a way to do like weighted, like random loot and stuff for their game. So now, instead of having a bunch of separate blocks like we had before, once again, we can just... We're actually going to match against the enum, which is going to be really nice. So we can just build out these match statements. I'm going to fix the weights. So what's nice, though, is this is valid. All the weights can be 70, and what that means is they're all just equal probability of happening. We don't want to make it that way, but that's the nice thing about the way the weights work, is it's all relative to each other. So you don't have to worry about like, oh, these numbers add up to what I want them to or whatever. No, like don't worry about that. Just make the weights something that makes sense. I did my N32 typo. I'm still typing it. All right, so we'll build out the item choice thing there, and then we can sample it. So we'll have to update the if-else block to match on the item type instead. So where is let mute item? So we're gonna say, instead of the if dice, we're gonna say match item choice dot end sample and mute rand thread RNG. We just have to tell it what thread to run on, basically. Because you might have made like a separate RNG object or whatever. So then all of these are going to be match blocks, basically. So this here is going to be item lightning. That's our lightning code. And I'm going to copy that to here and to here, and this is going to be fireball, and this is going to be confuse, and then it's still going to be a little bit mad. So let's go up here and make the initial one, which is going to be item heal. Now it's going to be a little bit happier. Let's see. Where am I closing that? Sorry. Right here? Ah, okay. It's getting funky. Let me item. It should be after confuse. Yeah, there we go. Sorry about that. I was missing one down there. Okay. That was still a cleaner refactor because we've done it once, so it's a little easier to see how this is going to work out. But same idea, right? We take a sample, we match against it. This time we're doing an enum, so we don't have to do the unreachable. And we just match against all the different types. So we could do a monster enum just like this, is what they were saying. We've now seen the two of the different ways we could do it, basically. And there we have it. So nothing else really has to change there to make that happen, to make that work. So as you can see, We don't have to add a catch-all branch for items because we handle all the variants of item. A nice benefit of these choice tables is that we're keeping the logic for random chances separate from the one that actually generates the objects. Also, I'm going to do something real quick. I'm going to remove, you're not going to see me do this, but I'm going to remove all the things that say whatever % chance. It's not, if you look at their comments there where it says create a confusion scroll or whatever, it doesn't mention the percentages. So I'm going to get rid of those as well. Not because I want to be exactly, but the point is that the percentages might change and the comment would incorrectly reflect the percentage. So, oops. We're already where I needed to be. Okay. So, yeah, a nice benefit. We're keeping the logic for random chances separate from the one that actually generates them. Okay. Been a while since I've seen one of those. Alrighty then. So you can keep your random tables, and sorry, there was a bot that just popped up. If you want to increase viewers, blah blah blah, go stop. There's actually somebody that actually wasn't a bot, and there's somebody at home that, like, they really thought that they were going to help me out, and they're actually really sad right now, and they're actually crying, and they feel really bad because they thought they found someone that they could help out and get more viewers, and I called them a bot and banned them. Anyway, you can keep your random tables in a separate file that can be easily moddable. Generate or modify it based on game options, difficulty, etc., without ever having to touch the object creation code again. So it is great. Like, it's that separation is nice, and you should try to do that as much as possible in your code. So monster and item progression. The only thing left is varying the contents of the dungeon, number of monsters and items, and their chances according to the dungeon level. Instead of having fixed values, they could change with some formula, like the one we use to calculate how much experience is needed to level up. You're welcome to do this if you prefer, however, in this section we'll go down a slightly different path. What we'd like to be able to say is that the maximum number of items per room starts as 1 at level 1 and changes to 2 at level 4. We'll create a table of transition points. Each entry in the table says what the value changes to and at what level. This should be easier to tune since you can change the value of one level without affecting the values of the others. We can take a similar approach to the weighted randomness. Let's make a struct that defines the level and value. Okay. There's a lot to take in there, but we'll go one piece at a time and see how this works out. So let's make a new struct somewhere. I've been making all my structs kind of near the top, so we'll make one up here. Why not? We're not deriving anything from it right now. So I guess we're not going to need it. Then we're going to define a list of the transitions, the transition points, and have a function that picks the right value for the given level. For the example above, we define transition level. Okay. Let's take a look at this actually, because that's a lot. Like, reading that's confusing. So it'd be an array of 2 transitions saying level 1 value 1 and level 4 value 2. For the example that we described above, which basically says a number of items starts at 1 at level 1 and goes to 2 at level 4. That's not very many items. You almost need those items to win, to like beat a floor. Anyway, so to get the correct value for a given level, we'll use a simple function. So let's go ahead and define that. We're going to copy this doc comment because I'm too lazy to type that out. So returns a value that depends on the level. The table specifies what value occurs after each level. Default is 0. Pass in a table, and we'll figure out what this transition is. Table.iter. Oh, I love this already because it's just like purely functional. And then somebody's like, no, not purely functional, because that actually has a meaning. Not in the academic sense, but it is purely functional in the practical sense. Maybe in the academic sense. I just don't know. All right, that's a lot of stuff there to just rattle off. So what do? We iterate through the table. We flip it, so we reverse it backwards. So we're starting from the end. And then we look for our current level to be greater than or equal to transition.level. And then we map or, we get a default, we get the transition value or a default of 0. But I'm trying to think about, did I type the correct sign? Yeah. Oh, I see. Yeah. I think I see how it's going to be used. We'll break it down a little bit. What I'm curious is how this works, because by reversing, assuming they're in order, which I think is the point of the table, yeah. So the first one you get to that passes that is going to be the highest level. Okay. So if you have something for level 1, or we'll say if you have something for level 2, 4, and 8, and you're currently on level 6, you'll look at level 8 first and you'll fail that check, and then you'll pass the check for level 4. So you'll get the highest one that you pass. Okay. So what do we have here? Yeah, it takes a list of transitions, goes through them in reverse order using the rev iterator method, and as soon as it finds a transition that's of the same or lower level, return its value. Note that for this to work, the table must be sorted by the levels. We could do the sort explicitly as part of the from dungeon level function. And now we have the tools needed to make the level progression more interesting. Let's change the number of monsters and items and their chances. And in place objects, okay. So what we just did, now we're going to be making more or less of things depending on this. Okay. Let's go back to place objects. That was still my active find. Max monsters. So we're going to get rid of the constants, I imagine. Yeah. So use random number of monsters. So we're going to say what is level? Have we got the level somewhere in here? I mean, it comes from game, right? But I'm just looking at their code. Let me double check something. Place objects now takes the level in as an argument. Okay. I was like, they're using level right away, but they haven't explained where it comes from. So that bothers me. But okay, I see. I just want to make sure before I start throwing stuff out that you know, I want to make sure I know kind of where it's leading, right? Max number of monsters per room. Let max monsters equal from dungeon level. We need a table. And that table is going to be transition level 1 value 2. Transition, if I can spell. Also, it would be helpful, I think, to give the player experience for reaching a new level. That'd be cool. So then this is going to be 6 and 5. And then level is it? Yeah, it's just level. We already have that. It's going to be passed in a moment. In fact, I think just to preempt it, so it's not mad, level U32. Just let's stop it from being mad at me, because that's going to annoy me. All right, let's format that so it looks a little nicer. And then we're going to choose a random number of monsters, but instead of max room monsters, we're going to do max monsters. And then we have our table, monster chance. Oh, we have some interesting stuff going on here. Oh, okay. So before we do the monster chances, look what we're gonna do here. We're gonna say, we're gonna make a troll chance. Let troll chance, because they're supposed to be much tougher, right? So from dungeon level, it's gonna be the same thing. We're gonna make a few transitions. Level 3, and value 15. Not 15k. Whatever that means. It doesn't make sense in the context of code, but it makes sense in a, you know, human context. And I don't like the idea of 15k. We're gonna say 5 and 30. And then here we're gonna say 7 and 60. So what we're doing is we're making trolls more common as we go, right? And then we're gonna get some value of whatever the chance is here. So we basically say, what is the current dungeon level? If we're at level 6, the first thing it's gonna do, this is again breaking down that function we just looked at a minute ago with the reverse iterator and all that. Say we're on level 6, we start at the back and we check, is our current level greater or equal to 7? No. Then we go to the next. Is our current level greater or equal to 5? Yes. So we'll pick this value, and thus a troll has a weight of 30. So that's the idea. So this also tells me that trolls are going to have a 0% chance of spawning until we get to level 3. That's how I'm reading this. We'll make sure that actually is how things are going to play out. So we now have a troll chance, and instead of giving the weight here, we're going to say troll chance, instead of hard coding the weight. So an orc still has a weight of 80, but at the max value, if we're level 7 or above, a troll has a weight of 60, which is almost as much as an orc. So we're going to get almost a half and half distribution at that point. So the idea is that's supposed to get much tougher as you go. And nothing else really really changes there. So let's click back over. There's a lot of code to change. It looks like a lot, but it's not that bad, right? So again, let's break down this so we can compare both of them. So what happens here is you pass in what level you're on and a table, which is just an array of transitions. And we go through that backwards. We iterate through them in reverse. And we ask, is the one we're looking at, is our current level of the dungeon greater or equal to the level of that transition? And then when we do that, we get a value. Or we have a default of 0 as our value, if the transition.value somehow doesn't work out for us. Actually, no, what'll happen is if we find nothing, excuse me. That's why. Yeah, if we find nothing here, then we didn't match anything, we default to 0 with the map or. And so then we're using that a couple of times here. What we're doing is we're saying how many monsters can there be per dungeon level. So at first, if you're on level 1, 2, or 3, we could have 2 monsters, not very many. Level 4 or 5 can have 3. Level 6 and above can have 5 monsters. And then here, and so we pick the number of monsters, you know, using that new value. And then here we have the troll chance, which we just did, right? And that's basically saying once you're on level 3, you have a weight of 15 for trolls to appear. Once you're on level 5 or 6, you have a weight of 30, and level 7 or above, a weight of 60. And again, comparing that to the weight of 80 on the orc, you get an idea of how often trolls are going to spawn now. So that's cool. I like that. So we define a transition table for the max number of monsters. We modify the chances of the troll showing up. Now we're going to do the same for items. So let's go ahead and pop on over and see, pop on over and see what's going to change. So we have random number of items. We're probably going to do, yeah, we're going to do the same thing here. So let max items. Change this a little bit. Let max items equal from dungeon level. Probably going to delete those two constants. I hope they'll have us do that. Transition. Level 1, value 1. In case you have some troubles fighting those orcs. And then once we get to level 4, we can have up to 2 items. Dude, scrolls, healing potions, everything. They're going to be super rare in this case. A little bit too rare for my taste. I'd like to... it's that I feel like you start out a bit weak, maybe. That's why, but... No, I think it's not gonna be too bad because you heal when you go down the floor, and if there's fewer enemies, it won't be as big of a deal. So here it's gonna be max items, right? Yeah, they did that elsewhere, but that's fine. And then item chances. Okay, they're doing this in a bit of a different way, but that's okay. Heal is always a weight of 35. And then some of these other ones are being handled differently. So lightning is going to be... Now this is an interesting way to do it, and it's very Rust-like, where you could just plop some code wherever you want it, kind of. So from dungeon level. I have to imagine, like, C++ people would hate this. Like, oh, let's throw arrays in the middle of this or whatever. Let's have fun with it. So what we're actually defining there, which is very interesting, is we've basically said that the weight for this item is that item can only appear once you get to level 4 of the dungeon. We're gonna do something very similar for Fireball and Confuse. So instead of typing that every time, I find it easier to just go ahead and copy this and modify the values. So it's gonna be level 6 for Fireball, because I guess that is our strongest spell. Level 2 for the Confusion. Okay. So that is already, like, I'm imagining this as a player where, like, on the first floor, you're all on your own. On the second floor, however, you find a confusion scroll. Maybe, right? It's actually only a 10%. Well, it's 10 versus 35. So this is about 3 times more likely to appear. But maybe you find your scroll or something on that second floor. And it's a little bit more, you feel a little bit more powerful, right? By the time you get to the 4th floor, maybe you found a couple scrolls or you've got a few healing potions under your belt. And now all of a sudden on the 4th floor, you get your lightning scroll if you're lucky, right? And you've leveled up a couple times maybe. Like, it's cool. Trolls are becoming more frequent though. Like, it is a cool system of progression that's starting to just be built in just by changing how many things can appear on each level. And I do like this as a way to do it. So item choice, we already do that. Everything else is the same, it should be. And then, yeah, so one of the complaints, however, is we must also pass level to place object. I see something red over here, so that's going to be it, right? Yeah. And since place object is called from make map, we need to add it there too. Level. So then you just pass in the level here. But then, of course, where make map is being called, we're having the same issue. So then the 2 places we call make map, let mute game. So in this case, we know it's going to be 1. It's hard coded as 1. And in the other case, it's going to be game.level, right? Dungeon level, that's it. Yeah, when we generate a new map after descending deeper into the dungeon. Yep, game.dungeon level. And then I can remove the 2 constants that are not being used. Oh, dice is no longer being used as well. And okay, yeah, there's a bunch of stuff. So let's go ahead and just like rewind a little bit so I can, you know, go through this and just cover everything that we've done. Because I've kind of gone through a lot here. So the idea, though, for what we did with items is the same as the monsters, right? Where we determine based on what level of the dungeon we're in, how many items can be on a level. So on level 1 of the dungeon, there can be 1 item. Once you get to level 4, there can be 2 items, and that's all you're ever going to find on a level past then, because we have no further transition states. You may be at level 632, and you're still only going to find up to 2 items. But at that point, you're going to one-shot everything anyway, probably. At least with the way the game is currently designed. And then we build out the item chances, the weighted options, and the only real difference from what we had before was that the weights, some of the weights for the scrolls now are being determined by that from dungeon level function with the transition state. And these are all single transitions, and that has the effect of saying, until you reach level 4, you will never find a lightning scroll. Until you reach level 6, you will never find a fireball scroll. But once you get past that point, they have a static weight of 25 in these cases and 10 for the confusion. So remember, these are all proportional to each other. So these are not percentages. This is not a 25% chance, but the weight would be 25 versus a weight of 35 here. So health is like a little bit more likely to show up, but this still has a decent chance of showing up, right? And as you add more things with that same weight, the probability gets distributed a little more evenly. So basically we build that table out and nothing else has changed in how we're using them. We get our weighted choices. We take a sample to figure out which item we're actually going to get. And then, yeah, there are a couple places that need the level now. Place objects needs a level. So then we have to feed it into make map. And then the 2 places where we call make map, they need levels. So we set it to, we pass it in hard coded here because we're making the map for the first time. We're starting we're initializing a new game. So we can hard code it in that case. And then once we're actually advancing levels in the dungeon, we can pull in dynamically whatever the level we're going to is. Delete a couple constants that we no longer need because they are not being used. And then let's update. This is what we're about to get to now. This is why I was like, let's back up and go over all that because I'm going down like pages of stuff. So finally, let's update the stats of our monsters and player to reflect the new reality. Okay, so I think all we're doing here is we're setting health and experience and things to make more sense with the new values that we've set for the item distribution and all that. And this is one where, once again, it's essentially trial and error. That's how I would say it. How do you know what values you want to use? Well, you experiment with it. Like a tutorial right now, the tutorial gods are telling me what to do, so I can just, go with that and be happy, right? But if you're actually making a game, this is an element of game design, which is like really up to you to figure out and kind of do trial and error. If you want to do it very mathematically, I guess you can come up with some formulas or something that makes sense. There's a lot of different options on how you figure out these values. But typically this is a lot of like play testing and stuff. And what you'll see if you have like a game engine like Unreal Engine or something where you can modify values on the fly, you'll see a developer doing that to like just slightly tweak values until they get something that makes them happy. Now I need to find player.fighter. Whoops. And what are we going to give them? Oh, we got a lot more max health. Good. We're a little bit beefier. I like that. But we also suck more. Wait, why are we losing points? No. Okay. And that's it. Try playing it for a bit. It'll be challenging and you can't just bash your way through. Try to reach level 10 or so. It's pretty fun already despite only having a couple monsters and a few items. And it should be a fairly straightforward to add more. Yeah, it is. And let me go ahead and just say the nice thing about Rust, not so much in the way that we handled the monsters because we did a match statement on a string. if I were going to be taking this and making something more serious out of it, I'd probably swap the monster types to an enum. But with the items, we have a match statement. Oops, click something I didn't mean to there. You don't see it, but I do. With the items, we have a match statement where we do our item generation. So we know that if we ever add a new variant, it's automatically going to pick that up, right? So we do match, what was it? What was it? Item table, what is it? Place items, we'll do place items. No? Or place objects, that's it, my bad. Yeah, so for the orcs here, or for the orcs and trolls here, there's strings, right? Item orc and item troll. But if we take a look at our, if we take a look at our weighted things here, the item is an enum, item heal, item lightning, item fireball, item confuse. And that comes into play here where we want to generate an item and we do a match statement. It's actually going to force that if we add another variation to this item enum, like I add, I don't know, what other scroll would I add? Like just you know, think something random that you would add, some kind of healing scroll or something. Maybe it's better than the healing potion, right? If you add a healing scroll, it's going to force you to have to take care of that here. So I really like the enums, really like the match statements. They make sure that if you change that code somewhere, you're not going to forget to change it elsewhere, basically. Now, I've been talking a bit. I haven't been playing a game for a while, so let's play a game. Let's start a new game. We'll lose my progress on the other one, but that's fine. We don't need it. All right, he took 5 hits, so he's definitely beefier. And we're lucky. We already got 2 healing potions? Wait a minute. Let me make sure I didn't make a mistake on the number of items. Let's see. I thought we could only get 1 item. Why did 2 show up? We might take a look at that in a moment. Let's see if I see anything else that's strange. We somehow got 2 healing potions. And I feel like we're getting a lot more monsters than... This is more monsters than we defined. Is there a problem in the code? We're dead. Oh no. Let's take a quick look here and try to break down what's happening. So max items from level 1 is a value of 1. Let's do a log info. Let's try this real quick. Max items 1. Okay, we're calling it a bunch. Did I put it in a bad spot? Did I put it in the room code by accident? Max numbers of... Oh no, this place items gets called for each room. Right, or place objects. Yeah, this is for each room. Okay, then I'm fine with these numbers. I was mistaking it and think it was for the entire dungeon level. No, it's per room, so we should expect to see potentially multiple. Okay, I was thinking the numbers seemed a little bit too low. It makes sense now. That was a weird spawn. Might be a little bug in the spawning code there. All right, so what we could do is say, screw it, we're out of here. Let's go to another floor. Take advantage of that free heal. So now we're just about topped off. Getting double teamed here though. Normally I gotta pay for that. Long hallway, gotta be careful. How are we looking on our stats here? Not too far from a level up. Let's heal up a little bit. Those healing potions really got gimped with the new stats and everything, didn't they? 4 health is not very much. Like, not a lot at all. I don't want to bum rush the stairs if I can find them. There they are, next to a dude. Alright, cool, we leveled up. Let's do agility. Get that defense going. And we healed for basically nothing. Yeah. Maybe I should not have done that fight. Maybe I should not have done it. Oh, we have our first troll. I bet that's gonna kill me if I fight it. I could barely take these dudes on now. Okay, we trying to play strategically a little bit, right? Ooh, we got our confusion scroll. How are we looking on getting to a level up? We're too far away. Oh no! Scroll hit me and it hurt. Alright, the troll's not even close to dead yet, apparently. And I died. So I confused him, and I wailed on him, and I died. So that's it. That's good enough for now. I would like to keep playing, and honestly, I do want to keep playing, because at this point, I will say it is fun. It's enjoyable to play. It's challenging. You have to think a little bit about how you use your items and how aggressively you push toward the enemies. When I had 2 enemies around a doorway, they were both hitting me, and I said I probably shouldn't have done that fight, because I let them... In the time it took me to kill one, the other got a bunch of free attacks on me. So there's strategy to it. As simple... It seems simple, right? But there's actually strategy to it. Monsters have a bit of a hard time making diagonal moves around, like, to go into hallways, so you can abuse that as you see me doing, so it's a strategy there. And just recognizing, like, you recover about 50, you recover like 50 health when you go through the level, but you take a lot of damage, you know, and you might just need to find the stairs and get down to the next level and use that free heal, because the healing potions don't do much. So yeah, it's actually fun at this point. It's not bad. But we got one more part to do to wrap this tutorial up, and good. We're coming in at just under 2 hours right now, so that's not bad. So yeah, I think I read this. It'll be challenging. You can't bash your way through. Try to reach level 10 or so. I would if I were not doing this right now, a stream, a recording, and all that. So let's go ahead and hit up the last section. Part 13, Adventure Gear, Swords, Shields, and other equipment can now help the player by granting hefty bonuses. The bonus system can also be used for all kinds of magics and buffs. Adventure Gear. So now we have a dungeon full of monsters and scrolls, but it's still somewhat lacking in variety. Where are all the swords, shields, staves, and so on? We need equipment. It differs from the items we have in 2 ways. You can only equip it in limited slots. and it enhances your abilities while it's being worn. This is unlike our items, which are one use only, though they don't have to be. So basic equipment. Let's create an equipment component. It'll know whether it's equipped or not, and we'll also have a slot such as hand for weapons or head for helmets. We're going to have a big old beefy derive here. So I'm going to just be really lazy because it's a double derive. There's two different things that need it. So I'm going to be really lazy and copy a little bit of that. And I'm going to just put it right above main as well. This is the last lesson. It doesn't matter if it gets messy. So an object that can be equipped yielding bonuses, and it's called equipment. There we go. And we're going to copy that again, but this line does not count anymore. But it's the same derive, so that was a shortcut. Left hand, right hand, and head. So we have 3 different places we can equip things. A piece of equipment will know where it is equipped and if it is equipped, basically. Or no, it'll know where it can be equipped, I should say, what type of equipment it is, and then it'll know whether it is equipped. So that's an interesting thing for the equipment itself to know about it. It'll work. It'll work for what we're doing. There could be arguments to do things differently, though. So let's go ahead and click back over here. So we're using an enum for the equipment slots to stay safe from typos and forgetting to handle a new case and match. You can just use a string instead, though. Well, of course, we do that everywhere. Why is that a note? We'll add this new component to our object in its new method. Okay. So let's go ahead and go up to the struct object. And let's see, it'll be the last thing. And it should be okay. The one thing that's a little concerning to me about it is it seems like with this approach, we can only have a single piece of equipment at a time. We'll see how that works. We can't have something on our head and something in our hand. We'll see how it works. We'll keep pushing on. And we're going to add a couple new object methods for putting the equipment on and off. So let's head into the impl block. Get to the end of the impl block and add a couple new ones here. Alrighty. So what is this? So pub function equip and mute self messages and mute messages. Just so we can like let the player know what's happening when we equip. A little flavor text, right? It confirms. It's also nice to give feedback to a player, especially in a text-based game. It's good to tell a player what's going on and make sure they know that what they did actually did something. Right, if you have, whoops, hang on. If you have, like a graphical engine that shows someone like putting a sword on or something, you probably don't need to spit text out that says you equip the sword, right? But if you are a text-based game and you have no other way to know that something happened, yeah, it's actually really nice, really helpful to be able to see information like that. All right, so can't equip it because it's not an item if you somehow got to that point. And then we'll do an if let, not it, if let some ref mute equipment. Now that's that syntax that I need to get used to. Oh my god, I cannot type all of a sudden. It's a syntax that I need to get used to. The ref here is something I haven't used much, so let's just reconfirm how this works, because I think it's basically saying that we want to operate on the let's see. It annotates pattern bindings to make them borrow rather than move. Yeah, so we want to operate on that without actually ripping it out of the object, right? So if equipment dot equipped equipment, that word just looks broken to me right now. I'm like, is that a typo? No, no. QUI, what is that? Sorry. So we're going to add a format, and it's going to be equipped something on something. I think I see how this is going to come together now. Yeah. And then we have an else clause to say can't equip something because it's not an equipment. Oops, didn't notice that one there. Okay. Slot does not implement display. Well, what if it did? What if we just debug it? That should be good enough, right? Unless they're going to derive that later. Or not derive, but implement it. So let's click back over because there's a block of text here. So let's just recap what happened. We have this equip method now in the impl block for object. If self.item is none, we can't equip it because it's not an item. Easy enough. And then we try to get this equipment out of self.equipment. That's what this if let is for. If let sum, meaning if something is not an equipment, we'll actually fall to this else case and just say, hey, we can't equip it. But in the case that it is equipment, we say if it's not equipped, we make it equipped equal true. And that's it. So right now we're not modifying stats or anything. That's going to be something that comes up in a minute, I'm sure. But yeah, that's the gist of what's happening. It's the meat of the methods in the middle. We take the equipment component, mark its equipped value as true, and print a message. Checks before and after are there to make sure the object we're calling is indeed an equipment and also an item. We could just ignore that since all equipment should be items, i.e. they can be carried in the inventory and dropped on the floor, but it's better to see when the unexpected happens. De-equip works similarly. Or dequip. All right. So let's go ahead and plop that one into plop. Plop. 10 points if you know that obscure reference. Why can I not type all of a sudden? I was typing great earlier. It's the fatigue setting in. I was actually abnormally tired today. Like, to just an extreme, obnoxious level. I hated it. So if it's not an item, okay, this is like the exact same thing. So let me just copy this, and it's literally gonna just change the text to say can't dequip. So it should never have been equipped in the first place, basically. And this if let is also going to be the same, except you're going to say dequipped, and you're going to say false. Now this is also where you run into problems, by the way. Because what you end up doing is you copy something and you forget to change one piece and you get some weird behavior. So when we start having issues later, this is a potential place to look for problems. But since the code is basic, we're just flipping a variable there and we're changing equip to dequip. seems like it's good enough to just copy that. But we're going to see if anything funky happens later, okay? So anyway, de-equip works similarly. And yeah, very, very similarly. You may have noticed that we're passing the message log vex string color directly instead of the full game struct, like in other object methods such as attack or take damage. This is to avoid a double mutable borrow later. Try passing game and mute game here instead, and you'll see the problem when we get to toggle equip. How do we equip our items? We can rely on the existing item mechanism. When you try to use or cast an equipment, which you can do since it's an item too, we'll equip or unequip it. So we'll add a new item type to say equipment. Then in the callback match in use item, it'll have a toggle equipment. Okay. Let's get over to do that. Enum item. So I just got done talking about this, how if we add a new item, our match statement for where we spawn items is going to force us to do it. We're going to see that in action. Equipment. We're going to end up making a new table for equipment, I imagine. It's going to be cool. There's going to be a lot of things that come into play all at the same time. Okay, where's it at? It should be near item. I was looking at the red. Up here? Oh no, it's on use. Let on use. It was down here. My bad. I was looking for something else. Okay. So fireball, now I have equipment. And we have no idea what toggle equipment is. We need to make it. Can it figure that out on its own? No? Not enough context to make it? Well, that's fine. Let's just copy this here for the function. I'll put it down here after the last one. And I'm doing that because I'm lazy. I didn't want to type in all the parameters again. We know because it's a callback, all of them have to have the same function signature. So I know I can just at least copy the function signature and change the name, and it would be enough to make it happy. So in order to create the toggle equipment function, what are we going to do? We're going to let equipment equal match game inventory dot, or not dot, inventory ID dot equipment. Oh, we're using inventory ID here, so. And now here we will say some equipment. Otherwise, none. We don't return anything back. We just, well, we don't, okay. We don't give anything back here out of the match statement. We do an actual return. Use result. Canceled. And in the case that we made it through that, we have an equipment now. Equipment is equipped. Game inventory, inventory ID, dot dequip, and mute game dot messages. Else, I'm going to go ahead and guess that I just need to copy that and change it to equip. And then we'll give a use result, used and kept. So we had used up before, now we have used and kept, and we haven't defined that yet. So let's go to enum, use result. Could have had it generated on its own. Used and kept. Look at that, auto-completed, because it knows. Rust knows. Let's click back over there and take a look at this. So, I don't think there's much to say here. Like, if there is an equipment component, we get it here. If the equipment is equipped, we dequip it. Otherwise, we equip it. That's all there is to it. And then we return that new variant. We're returning a new use result value here, one that says we have used the item, so it's the monster's turn now, but we don't want the item to disappear. Here's why we have to pass mute game messages to equip instead of the full mute game, or mute game.messages. In the same statement, we look up the equipment object in game.inventory, which will make the game mutably borrowed for the duration of the equip call, so we can't borrow it a second time. However, since we're only borrowing game.inventory, we can borrow game.messages separately. If you don't like this, you could turn equip and dequip into methods into standalone functions that would take inventory ID and mute game. Let's take a look at that one more time. So we're taking mute game there, and we need the inventory from it. Oh, right. So the inventory is a separate thing from game.messages. Yeah, that makes sense. If we try to pass the game in here, it'd be like, wait a minute, you're passing a mutable reference to game, but you've been messing with game over here, and you borrowed it here. What are you trying to do, man? What are you trying to do? Because equipment's coming out of the inventory. Okay, that makes sense to me. Hope it makes sense to you as well. We need to add the new value to the use result enum and handle the new case in use item. As always, the compiler will complain, so you can rely on it to tell you where to look. See, actually, I'm going to say this is very useful stuff to me to think about, because it's interesting ways that you can make the code do what you need it to do. Like, I mean, I feel like if I got to that point, I'd be like, oh, I've got some weird thing. I'm looking for like weird esoteric solutions when it's actually pretty simple in this case. Because you can do multiple borrows related to the same thing in this case. Anyway, we need to add the new value and handle the case and use item. As always, the compiler will complain, so you can rely on it to tell you where to look. And yeah, so I think we've already done that. Or have we? No, we haven't. Okay. Use item. Okay, we'll add another bit here for use result used and kept. And we do nothing. Go. And then why are you mad up here? Because we're still not made. Yeah. Still not doing that. And hey, now we can have regular items that don't disappear upon use, such as wands or spell books or lockpicks, etc. And finally, we need to update the item chances for the new equipment type and add one to the game. So add this to the item chances and place objects. Wait 1,000. Okay. And then we'll add a sword later on. We'll regenerate the items. Okay, well, let's do that. Let's do it. Should be fun. So we're definitely getting a sword, right? Chances of not getting one. So item chances right here. And I'll put it at the end, but it doesn't really matter. Item, equipment, and then it's going to be level. Oh no, we're not doing a transition. So it's just weight of 1,000. There we go. Yeah, that's pretty much always going to happen when you're comparing it to a weight of 35. Yeah. That's what, like 30 times more likely to appear. So we'll add the sword down here where it's mad, where it's complaining. Expected a fat arrow. What you really want to do here is add multiple items, and I think we're going to end up doing that. We'll do that right there, and we'll say sword, sky is the color, and false on blocking, so we can walk over it and stuff. Object.item equals sum item equipment. Object.equipment Well, some equipment slot is going to be right hand. Equipped is going to be false. Oh, obviously, because we don't have it on yet. Object. All right. And as you can see, the weighted chances really don't have to be percentages. By setting the sword's value to 1,000, it's much more likely to appear than any other item we can, or than any other item, so we can find it early in the game and test it. We'll set it back to something more reasonable later on. Equipment polish. Now that we have the equipment basics in place, let's finish it up. Actually, no, let's test it. If everything's happy, let's test it first. Because we're probably going to change those values, and we want to see the sword in action, right? Even though it's not going to do anything yet. Oh, there it is. Yeah. Picked up a sword, item, sword, equipped sword on right hand. But that's not going to do anything. Because we're not actually having it change anything about us. It's not adding to our stats or anything, right? So now we have the equipment basics in place. Let's finish it up. First, we only want to have one item equipped in any given slot. Here's a function that returns an equipment that occupies a given slot if it exists. See, this is why I would almost rather have the player keep track of their equipment slots. You get some weirdness, though, because then something is both simultaneously in the inventory and an equipment slot. And that can be probably a little weird in Rust. So that's something to keep in mind. So yeah, we're going to make this function to check what's in a given slot, if anything. So we know it's going to be an option, first and foremost. It's going to give us an ID, or a usize, which I guess is going to be the ID of the thing in our inventory, right? Let's go down here to main, where I always seem to put functions. And let's do it. Get equipped in slot. Inventory and object. And we'll get a usize. So for inventory ID and item in inventory.iter.enumerate if item dot equipment dot as ref. So that's going to get us whatever's in there, right? Yeah. Converts option string into option, or that's the example. I gotta take a look at it again. Give me a second. Snap or false. E. I don't know why that one's not sticking with me. E dot equipped and E dot. Oh. Mad because I didn't put a dot. I was like, why is it not lighting up? It's bothering me. E dot slot equals slot. I want to break down that ref thing just to make sure. So it takes us from an option with the equipment in it to a reference to the equipment. Yeah, okay. I don't know why this goes string to usize though. Well, I know it's an example, but I don't know. Oh, they're showing like two different things. Okay, I think they are. Text is the option, and they do text as ref, and they do s.len. Yeah. So map takes the self argument by value, consuming the original. We don't want it to do that. That's why. Okay. As ref. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Cool. It's a way to keep the thing. Okay, that's making more sense now. I see. I've never ran into an issue with map consuming something that and needing it back in a way that affected me. But in this case, I see, because it's normally I'm iterating through something and like item here is a reference to an object. But when we go to this option here, that's not a reference to equipment. That's just the equipment. That's the real thing. So yeah, we do need to turn it into a reference. That's why. Normally I iterate over something and I map, but I'm already dealing with references from the iter, so it doesn't matter. Okay. And then basically we can use this function to prevent a second item in the same slot, or better yet, de-equip the old to make room for the new and toggle equipment. So if let some, that's not a good one to look for. There's toggle equipment. I was like, let's just go through here. Okay. So we'll check the equipment first, and then I'm not sure how they're changing this function. So let's look at this and see what I'm looking at, just to make it clear. We define get equipped in slot, and then it says we can use it to prevent a second item in the same slot, or better yet, de-equip the old to make room for the new. And toggle equipment, I don't really know where they put this. If it's already being used, de-equip whatever is there first. The slot is already, okay. So we do that here, I guess. That's where I'm going to guess it goes. If the slot is already being used, de-equip whatever is there first. If let some current will get equipped in slot, equipment.slot, and game.inventory, and then we'll just de-equip it. Okay, yeah, I definitely need to use if let a lot more in my code. That is actually really nice. That's it's a really nice way to break apart options and stuff. I don't know why I didn't start using that earlier. Because normally I do a match, and I do like this. Match, get equipped in slot. I do that, and I do endgame.inventory, and I go in here, and I'd have it. Still can't type match apparently. Still match arms, and for none, I would do this, and then I would do that other code in here. Does it work? Yes. But okay, well, we don't have current, so we'll have to say current there. There we go. Equivalent code, but if let is a lot cleaner, I think. This is more explicit, but I don't know. I am liking if let. I do a lot of unnecessary matches because of that. So that's a way to clean up the code a lot. I like that. Okay. Anyway, not to be distracted by that. Sorry. And then we'll look at what's going on over here. So quick little sidebar. Another nice behavior is to automatically equip picked up items if their slots are available. In the pick item up function in the else branch, we're going to do that. Okay. I don't really like that personally, but I'll do it for the tutorial. In the else branch, we do the swap remove. You picked up a thing and you put it in. Okay. Words. Careful word choice there. Let index. So we want to know what the what index the item is in, which is going to be the length of the inventory. Let slot equal item dot equipment dot map e e.slot. How does this map not consume? Azref map, or is it because we're using the fighter later? I think that's why. Well, here it's because we're modifying the fighter, perhaps. No, we're not modifying, excuse me. No, we're not. I was looking at the wrong thing, or I was thinking about the wrong thing. I need to spend some more time on that. I'm not going to keep going down that rabbit hole right now. Here, but I should. So here we have equipment is an option with an equipment in it. And then we turn it to an option with a reference to the equipment. And it says, map takes the self argument by value consuming the original. So this uses Azref to take an option to a reference to the value inside the original. Converts an option consuming the original. So we shouldn't be able to use that again after that. That's what's confusing to me. The consuming part. I think I had a typo and I think it got fixed. I think auto-corrected or something. I don't know. So if get equipped in slot, we pass in that slot game.inventory .is none. Yeah, so we just basically check, is something equipped there? And if not, yeah, if not, then equip. I get that. I just don't get why we don't need to do that here on item.equipment. I'm not getting why we don't have to do the Azref here. The code is still valid. Item.equipment. Yeah, I guess we're not touching item.equipment again after this, so it doesn't really matter, I guess, if you consume right there. Okay. Sorry I'm getting so distracted by that, but it's not something that I'm used to having to do in my code, and I learn best by doing, so I'll need to encounter situations where that is useful, remember this, and then apply it myself, basically. That's when I'll learn it best. So yeah, we take the inventory index of the picked up item and an option of the equipment slot. It's none if the item is not an equipment. Then we check whether that slot is occupied, and if not, equip the new item. We also need to dequip an item if we're dropping it. In drop item, right after the game.inventory.remove line, where is that one? Game.inventory.remove. What do we do? If item.equipment.isSum item.dequip. Yeah, we don't have to do any other checking on that. That one's easy. It would also be nice if we could show which items are equipped in the inventory screen. Replace inventory.iter.map line in the inventory menu. Where's it at? Inventory editor map. With okay, so still doing the map. We're just going to do a little bit more. So map goes to an item, and then we'll say show additional information. In case it's equipped. Stop, get that thing off the screen. Thank you. We'll match, and we'll say if there's equipment on it. Oh, that's a nice little thing I've only done a few times, but it's nice. So we can actually bake if statements into our matches as well, into our match arms. It's a little mad because we don't have both match arms yet. Oops, also I'm not done. Oh no, we are, yeah. Put this here. Oh, it's because I made a typo as well. Well, what if slot did? What if we just do that? Yeah. It's not in the code example in the tutorial, but we'll just put that there and debug print it. Okay. So, yeah, I like this. So we're getting some equipment only if the equipment is equipped. So that's actually a thing you can do in your match statements. You could put like qualifiers on it with conditionals like that, which is a really nice thing. I mean, it makes your matches even more powerful. I'm a big fan of that. So that's really all there was to it, though. If it's equipment and it's equipped, say it's an item name on whatever the slot, otherwise just get the item name like we've been doing. So we just replace the closure pass to map to report the equipped slot if available and the item name otherwise. You can check the equipment state in the inventory screen and it changes correctly as you pick up, drop, equip, and dequip various items. One last thing to do here. The message log shows the equipment slot is capitalized, equipped sword on right hand. This is because the slots are enums and this is their debug representation. If they didn't have derived debug, we wouldn't be able to print them at all. It'd be nice if we could override the output somehow, or better yet, leave the debug output as is, but provide a human-readable alternative. I don't know, I mean, yeah, I guess lowercase right space hand would be fine. The way to provide a user-facing output in Rust is to implement the display trait. Let's give it a go. That's what I mentioned earlier. Like, I wonder if we're going to implement that. Looks like we are. So let's go back to that, and we'll say equipment.slot. A couple of those there. All right, so now it's mad. We're going to implement the trait. So enum slot, and we'll go right here and implement that trait. So it's going to be impl. Display. They did the fully qualified, so we'll do it too. Normally I just type display and let autocomplete import it for me, but this is fine. And then what I like to do is that format self, format standard formatter. Their code example does not have this lifetime, this generic lifetime thing here, so we're going to see if we can get away without it. Match self, and then it's going to be left hand. That's all there is to it. Right hand becomes right hand, and this becomes head. And there, yeah, we didn't need the generic lifetime thing there. But it showed up by default, so it's whatever. Alrighty. So the write macro is similar to format. Okay, well, basically, yeah, all we're doing is, well, no, we'll read this. It's similar to format or print line, but it writes to a standard formatter struct. We can now use this new formatting by replacing the colon question mark to just the regular thing every time we put on a slot. So an inventory menu, and then on equipped and dequipped on. I don't think I did it in both of those. So, whoops, I'm in the wrong thing there. Equip, FN equip. Can't equip blank because it's not an item. Equipped on. So where's dequip? So I had missed that one. All right, so I fixed that now. And then the equipment, yeah, okay. And now the equipment related messages look much nicer. Yeah, and then the last bit's going to be to make equipment useful. So we'll take a look at this running real quick, and then we'll actually we'll make equipment useful. So the first thing I can do is load the game and check our inventory. And look at that, sword on right hand. Cool, play new game. Of course, we found an item. You picked up a sword, equipped it on right hand automatically. I didn't do anything. Inventory, sword. Can't dequip object. Why not? Let me move around a little bit real quick. Okay, there's a lot because it's not an equipment. That's the debug representation of sword. That's why it's so bad. So yeah, let's try to fix that. I called out already that this is going to be a potential problem place because I think I copy pasted it. So let's look, let me go back and look at that and just compare a little bit and make sure I didn't miss something obvious. Dequip. We say if self.item is none, messages.add can't equip because it's not an item. That's not a great way to represent it. You'd probably want to add you'd probably want to do format for that as well. But that looks fine if self.item is none. But we got to the not an equipment one. If let some ref mute equipment equals self.equipment. If let some ref mute equipment equals self.equipment. If equipment.equipped. Oh. No, this is where it failed. Yeah. And this else is in the wrong place. It's on that. Mistake. And that means I also made the mistake up here, didn't I? So that is not as much about copy paste and more that I actually just made a mistake in where I put that when I was reading the code. Mismatched the brackets. Yeah, so that should fix the problem. Let's run it again and see what happens. Scoot some things around real quick. All right, continue last game. We still have the ugly message there. But if I go into the inventory, equip sword. Equipped sword, perfect. All right, crisis averted, yes. I knew where the problem was going to be, and the best thing we could have done too to debug that If we didn't know where it was going to be, we look at the message, right? And it's like, because it's not an equipment, can't dequip because it's not equipment. It's got to be this line right here. So how do you get to that line? What are the things that lead you to that line? That's how you solve that, right? Pretty straightforward debugging, though. That one's not too bad. Okay. Then we're back to bonus round. That's where we're at. Equipment polish. We still got a long way to go. We're like halfway done with this beefy one. Bonus round. The last bit is to make equipment useful by letting it change the player's stats when equipped. We could simply add the bonus value to a stat, say attack and power, when the item is equipped, and subtract it when dequipped. This is brittle because any tiny mistake will permanently change the player's stats. A more reliable approach is to calculate on the fly the player's stats when they are needed, based on the original stat and any bonuses. This way there's no room for inconsistencies. The stat is truly based on whatever bonuses apply at the moment. Other languages have different ways of dealing with this, e.g. Python's properties. But in Rust, we have to rely on functions and methods. I'll have to look at the properties. I'm not sure about that. We'll implement the power attack bonuses first, and then do the analogous work for defense and health. We'll create a power method on object, which will return the total power of the object, player or monster. Okay, so we get the base power. Okay, we'll do it because it's describing what we're going to do. Impl. Oh no, we were there. Okay, we got to go back to the bottom of the impl block. Impl object. Oh yeah, of course it was there. All right, and what are we doing? Pub fn power. And let base power equal ... Let bonus equal ... Base power plus bonus. That's what we're going to return, but we have no idea what ... is, and I made typos. I make a lot of typos when I'm talking, so this is actually like a range or something, but it's there for a reason because that's what's in the code, because it's a placeholder. We're going to have to figure out how these are calculated. So we get the base power of the object, then all the bonuses that apply, and we add them together. Easy. Well, the base power is stored in the fighter component, so we look it up there and return 0 if the object doesn't have the component. Alternatively, you may return an error or an option I32. So we've been doing this already with the map or. Zero f dot power or power. The bonus is going to be a little more complicated. We want to go through all the object's equipment and sum up their bonuses. All right, click over just for that. So let bonus equal, yeah, what is bonus going to equal? Self dot get all equipped game. And we haven't defined that yet. .iter .map e .power bonus .sum, and we don't have a power bonus yet, but that's going to be added. It's going to be a field added to the equipment. We're going to have to do the same thing for defense bonus and health bonus or something, whatever the other one's going to be. Yeah, we're going to do health as well. Okay. So they say this is a bit of a handful. Actually, I think this one's pretty self-explanatory, personally. Where did it go? Sometimes when I move between monitors, it scrolls the window a bit, and I lose my place. So we're just going to get everything that's equipped, iterate through that, and we sum up. This is a combination here. We get the power bonus from each one of these, and then we do .sum to get the total power bonus. So let's see how they describe it. This is a bit of a handful, so let's unpack it. First, we'll have a method called getAllEquipped, which returns all equipment for the given object. Then we go through each equipment using iter and sum up all their power bonuses. The sum iterator method, which just adds all numbers from an iterator together. Finally, the equipment component needs to have the power bonus property. So let's start there. Then implement getAllEquipped, and finally switch to using the power method. Extending the equipment's the easy part. We'll just add it to the equipment struct. By using I-32, the bonuses can be negative. Example for a cursed item. When we try to compile it, Rust will remind us that we need to set the power bonus for our sword and place objects. So we'll just use 0 for now. Okay, I don't see why, but sure. And then we'll do get all equipped. So let's go ahead and get started with all that. Get all equipped is a method on object, right? Yeah. So that's important to make sure we get that in the right place. Construct equipment, and we'll say power bonus. Yeah, you could have like a helmet that gives you a bunch of health but reduces your attack. So that could be like a cursed item or something, how they describe it. Could have positives and negatives associated with it. So it's mad. So here for the sword, we'll say power bonus 0. Something up here is still mad. Why? Oh, get all equipped. Yeah, of course. But that's actually going to be right here in it's right where I need to be. So we'll define get all equipped, and it's just going to take game that, and it gives us a vector of equipment, and that's what we're iterating over in that above function power, where we're calling it. So if self.name is player, sure. We look at the inventory. I don't really like checking the name like that. I don't feel like you should check that in here. I feel like you should check that before. Oh, no, I see why we're doing it. Yeah, because something else could have equipment, I guess. I still think there's better ways to do it. Well, I think the problem here is we're seeing one of the downsides to managing the inventory in the global like game state rather than as part of the object. So I think it would be better to say like an object has its own inventory, right? So we could say a player, the player object has an inventory, the troll has an inventory, or maybe it's a component so they don't have to have an inventory. But then that would work for NPCs, where you could have an NPC that has an inventory. And then you wouldn't have to manually check the player here, because it would work for everything, right? Self.equipment. Oh, I said self, not E. What do I get for talking? Oh, not equipment either. Sorry. I make mistakes while I'm doing that. Bonus. Why do we need an annotation? Because it should know how it's being used, and it's figuring it out right there. Can I build? Consider giving an explicit type, but it actually just tells me to do this, which is goofy. Okay, no. Now it's there. And they didn't specify the type before, did they? No. Okay, well, I'll specify it to stop it from being mad. But it should be able to infer that because it's being used here with an I-32. It should have everything it needs to know. Yeah, I like the idea, though, of giving everything its own inventory rather than this. This is definitely not what I would do. But yeah, basically, if it's the player, we get the game's inventory and we iterate through it. We filter. only equipped things. And then we get all of those equipments out and collect them. And that's how we get the vec equipment. Otherwise, we just give an empty vector in case something else is calling that. We go through the inventory, filter out anything that's not equipment, then return a vector of equipments. The if self name equal player bit is a bit hacky. We have to do it because player is the only object with an inventory. If we added inventory to every object or kept a unique ID associated with each object, we wouldn't need to do this. Anyway, we can calculate the full power value of each object, but there's one more thing we ought to do. Remember that we now have a power property as well as a power method. We should give them distinct names so we know which is which when editing code. Let's change fighter.power to fighter.basePower. Okay. And let's update our power method to use base power. I don't have to do that. You know why? Because I'm going to go to struct fighter, and all I have to do is go into power, press F2, and it's refactoring. So everywhere in the code base that we use that name, that field has been renamed. That's just a quick rename refactor. So then, yeah, the power method, before it said f.power, I think if we scroll up here, we'll see it, right? Yeah, f.power right here. Now it's f.basePower. So let's take a look at the code just to see it. F.basePower. See? We got it for free. Kind of. Okay. We try to compile this, we'll see that all the uses of fighter.power in our code. We can go by one and decide whether we need to use the full or base power there. So there was a downside to that, however. So I jumped the gun. And maybe that's not what we wanted. I'll follow along and make sure we get everything updated accordingly, okay? So first we'll update the damage calculation in our attack method. So fn attack, let damage equal self dot, that line there? Okay. Self dot power game minus right, I see. Yeah, minus target.fighter.map or f and f.defense. So we calculate our total power. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Next we have to change power to base power and place objects. That should already be changed. We're gonna make the orc, we have base power. And same with the troll, that's already there. We want to show the full power in the character screen, so handle keys, match arm for C. Handle keys, match arm for C. Fighter.base power. It's not going to be that, it's going to be player.power game. And the level up screen should only show the base power. So choice equal menu. Easy way to find it. Fighter.base power, that's good. That's all we need. And do the same a bit later on when we actually level up power. Fighter.base power plus equal 1. That's good. Finally, we need to players fighter component. It's a typo. Finally, we need 2 players fighter component in new game. But that should already be fixed. Player.fighter equals sum. Base power. Yeah. Doing defense is exactly analogous. Just rename defense to base defense and add defense bonus to equipment. So let's go up to impl. No, we'll go up to pub fn defense, or not power. And we're gonna make defense. This is one where I'm very tempted to just go ahead and copy. We'll do one more. Pub FN defense. Self, game, and game. It's an I32. And let base defense equal self.fighter.map, or it's going to be 0 f.base defense. Let bonus I32 equals self. So it's going to be very much the same. Dot get all equipped. Dot iter. Dot map. E dot defense bonus. Sum. Base defense plus bonus. And yeah, it doesn't know what some of this is, but it's good. And then we'll have a final damage formula and attack that we'll take a look at in a moment. So let's go up to fighter struct. And we'll say this is here is base defense. And we'll say base max HP. And then we'll have to go to the equipment struct. And we're going to have defense bonus, 32, power bonus, I32. Oh, not power, health. Oh, they moved it at the top, that's why. This kind of went on, I was like, wait a minute, that's not right. Max HP bonus, I32. Okay. Max HP method on object. And we'll add those in a minute. Was it pub FN defense? Pub FN max HP. And this time I am going to copy. Going to return an I32. It's going to be almost the same, I think. We're just going to swap what we're grabbing. So it's a base defense. It's going to be base max HP. We're going to rename this to base max HP here. And we're going to get max HP bonus out of it. Everything else should be fine for that. Okay. I want to modify the heal method to pass in game. Well, what's complaining down here? Oh, still that, yeah. FN heal. Yeah, because we're going to have to change the way some of these work. So now instead of using the max HP from the player, we're going to say let max HP self dot max HP, and we get the game there. And then we get the fighter component. Curious about something. Oh, right, because it could be 0. The map org gives us 0 in the case that we don't have a fighter component. I was wondering why we wouldn't do it inside of this, just to make sure we have a fighter component, but that makes sense. So fighter HP plus equal amount. And then instead of this, we say max HP. Okay. I need to fix cast heal as well. What's wrong with cast heal? If fighter health is player.max HP game. Yeah. Okay, let's get an object. Let's get a reference to the player. It's a messy, messy refactor. I don't like this one. I understand why it has to happen, but not a fun one. Player.heal is going to be heal amount and game. And the healing at the beginning of next level is now... Okay. Heal... HP in game. But heal HP is going to be off... instead of all that, it's going to be objects player.max HP divided by 2. Okay, so that's good. Player's stats should reflect it. So it's going to be character information. Just trying to think of the quickest way to get to it. So instead of base max HP, it's going to be player.max HP. And it's going to be player.defense. Defense. We render the HP bar, render all. Okay. Also need to update hit point calculation. Yeah, there's a lot. I haven't even done some of the defense stuff. I haven't forgot about that. What am I looking for? Show the player's stats. Here we are. So HP, instead of all this, it's going to be .max HP. Oh, no, okay, no, that's fine. But we need this here, .max HP. Okay. Level up. So in level up, there's a few things here. Base of each, yep, I've got that. Fighter.base max HP. Base power and base defense. Yep. Finally, the orc control monsters need to use base max and HP. So create an orc. Oh no, they're already using it. Yeah, I refactored to get there. We're not quite done. Go back up real quick and look at the defense stuff, because I didn't quite do all the defense stuff yet. So let me find what I need to change for that real quick. Base power. Sorry, I went too far on the side over here. Doing defense is analogous. Rename defense to add defense bonus and fix the compilation errors. FN attack. Let damage equals self.power, and then it's going to be target.defense. There we are. I think all the other defense stuff is actually fine. Missing defense bonus. Oh yeah, I never added that to equipment. Oh no, it's the sword. My bad. It's the sword. That's what's complaining. Sorry. Let me just click on this to take me to it. Okay. We'll rename the equipment to sword, and we'll add a new one called shield and stuff. Okay, there's a lot of stuff going on. So let's take a step back before I get to the items. Let's take a step back and break down everything that just happened, because it's a lot. I went through a lot of stuff there because it just seemed like the thing to do, right? So we changed fighter.power to fighter.base power. We added a method to the object to be able to calculate its total power. And we updated multiple things to take account for that. So the damage formula, well, here's the final damage formula, because we did the same for attack. So now instead of doing like fighter.power and then getting the target's fighter.defense, we're getting the total power and defense. Excuse me, sorry. We're getting the total power and defense of each one. And that's what our actual formula is. Basically, though, let me double check here. Let me scroll back up because I might have missed something, so I want to be clear. Base power, player.power on character. No, that's good. Okay. Base power, base power, base power. Okay, I think everything's fine. Good. So we do that same idea for defense, and then the same for health, right? So basically, we have the idea of the base stat, and where we level up, we modify the base stat. But anytime we're actually using the stat, we use the total stat, which takes in bonuses from equipment, right? So that's the gist of what we're doing here. So we basically had to go through everywhere that is using like the bonus values, or that's actually using the stat. Those take the bonuses in, right? Those say, okay, we want to get the base plus whatever our bonuses are. But anywhere we're actually modifying the stat itself, like when we level up or something, we want to use the base value. So there's going to be a lot of cases where we just care about the base value, but then when we're actually trying to like calculate the bonus, we need the base value plus, we'll calculate, I'd say the total. We need the base plus the bonus, or when we're like leveling up, we need the base. Healing, we do need the max HP, which is our bonus value. Yeah, we need that bonus value there. That's all there is to it. Nothing. I don't think anything else to say on that. Cast heal, we need to worry about the full value, the bonus, you know, including the bonus, because otherwise it's basically not being used, right? And then when we go to the next floor, the heal is now based off of our max, which includes the bonus. So if we're wearing like a cool helmet that gives us extra health or something, the heal now takes that into account. And then down here, where we look at our character info, we see all the new values with bonuses. On the player's stats, we now see our current health, and then we see the max health factoring in the bonuses. When we level up, again, we see the base values because that's what we care about. And we make sure we modify the base values when we level up. And then finally, or control monsters, yeah, that's good. I did the refactor to rename it, so that actually is already taken care of in my case. And the values here are basically tuning the gameplay. Feel free to set them to whatever you wish. We'll set the sword's power bonus to 3 and leave the rest set to 0. Okay. And then we'll add a shield and we'll rename some equipment and stuff. So that's going to be the next thing we do. That's why I wanted to go back through all that, because I did a bunch of stuff all at once. So 3 and fill those other 2. And those are 0. Null. Auf Deutsch. Okay. And yeah, we're going to go back up to the... We're going to go back up to the enum, to the item enum. We're actually almost done now. Cool. We're like super close to being done. So we're going to change equipment here to sword. Hope that didn't break anything. And then shield. So now we should have a sword being used, but we're not matching against shield in a couple cases where we're using it. This is mad. We'll have to take a look at this cast heal in a bit. I might have broken it. Player, actually, let's take a look at it now. Okay, so in cast heal, we get a mutable reference to the player. Let player equal unmute objects player. Oh, that's why. Yeah, we don't need to get another ref. We don't. Okay, yeah, that's good. Okay, sorry. That was complaining. It was a problem. Alrighty. So back to what I was working on a moment ago now. We added the sword and shield variant. So in use item, we need to add shield. Toggle equipment, right? So this is the nice thing now with the callback setup. Well, it's still equipment, so we could just reuse the same function here, which is pretty nice. And assign them chances and place objects. So should be place objects here. We'll go up to, there's the sword. I'm assuming they're going to change what the sword is. Yeah, so they're building another one of these from dungeon level. So I'm going to copy that and get an easier one. The sword can show up from level 4, and it's a value of 5. So it's actually a little bit more rare. And we'll add another weighted here. And this one will be for shield. And it's going to be level 8 and a value of 15. And then in the match statement, we need to make a shield. So it stops being mad that we're not doing it, right? Say shield. And we're going to make it a bracket. Item, shield. And then what are our values here? 0, 1, and, oh no, it's 1 defense. Theirs are in a different order, but it's okay. And we need to update the sword creation code for what? 003, 3 power bonus. I think the sword's fine. Oh, actually, what color is the shield? It's darker orange. Doesn't matter that much, but and then we'll give our players something to start with. They can't go into a dungeon unarmed. So in new game, FN new game. After we initialize the game struct, initial equipment, a dagger. There we go. Even the playing field a bit, right? We'll make a new object, 0, 0. It's going to be just a dash called dagger, sky, and false. Dagger to item, will sum item sword. It still works like a sword. Dagger dot equipment equals sum equipment. Now, what in the world do we have here? It's a left-handed thing, so you can have 2 weapons. I like that. Equipped is true. We're just starting out with it equipped. Max health bonus is 0, 0, and 2. So we're going to give it 2 power. And that's about it. We'll put it in the inventory. Let's also decrease the player's initial power to 2, since this is a Dungeon of Doom after all. Oh no, why would you do that? So you basically defeated the purpose of the dagger as far as I'm concerned. Because like you just made us, like the dagger just gave us the same strength that we had before now. We lost 2, but the dagger gives us 2. Okay. So what did I do? We added a new variant to the enum. We added sword and shield. Well, rather, we changed equipment to sword, so I refactored that automatically with the IDE. And then in here we had to, again, this refactored, but we had to change equipment to sword. And then I had to add shield and make that toggle equipment. In place objects, we updated the item table here to include, so the sword now starts from level 4 and it has a value of 5, its weight. weight being distribution weight, not like a item weight, like kilograms or something. And we did the same for shield. It starts at level 8 and has a weighted value of 15. We had to add the shield into the match statement so we could actually create one. It's a left-handed thing. And then we had to add the sword to the, or we had to update the sword just to make sure that the power bonus and stuff is set as we would like it to be. And finally, we give our players something to start with, which was the dagger that we just made. So basically, we just create a dagger object. We make it a sword type. And we give it the equipment component, which is the power bonus, and it's a left-handed, and then we put the dagger in the inventory. But note, we actually manually set it to be equipped, so we start the game with it equipped. And then we'll also, we decrease the player's power because the tutorial gods said so. And that's it. We've got a bonus system that's generic enough for all kinds of crazy equipment. So play the game, add stuff, change stuff, modify it to your heart's content, or write something completely new from scratch. Have fun. Oh, that was like, ooh, that was a weird feeling, just being like, hey, we're done. But I think I typoed, I put tree. I was like, I typoed something. That was a weird feeling to be like, hey, and we're done. Like, seriously, that was a weird feeling. Except the game broke. Why did the game break? What happened? The game broke and it unbroke now. Okay. Yo, what's going on, Brown? All right, so we're gonna just skim through this a little bit. The finished product for now. Hope you're doing all right, Brown Disappointment. Just popped in right here at the end. Take a look at our inventory. We do have a dagger that's equipped on the left hand. We found a healing potion. We're not finding any enemies right now for some reason. Broke the spawn code. Actually, it makes me wonder, because randomness, that, like, it's a thing that can happen, right? There's some dudes. Bop them. Okay. We'll play for a little bit here. This is the finished product. I want to test some of the code. Yeah, random could include none, right? Like, that randomness is weird. Heal up with our crappy healing potions. Probably a smart move here would be, we'll kill him. Probably a smart move would have been to get out of here, though. So let's get onto the next floor real quick. Yeah, I like enemies in the hallway. Much easier for me to stop. They can't, like, circle around me, right? Okay, where are we? We have a scroll. There's going to be a confusion scroll, because that's the only one that can appear here on the second floor. Confuse the further one. I will bop this man. Oh my god. Had a hard time hitting him because he kept moving around. Okay. And we'll bop this man. And I am looking for a place to heal, okay. Actually, let's check our stats now. So our attack says 4. Let's see that this works. If I unequip the dagger, our attack says 2. Correct. Perfect. What you expect. Alright, we'll kill that man, I guess. Okay, we've leveled up. What do I want? Probably take some defense for survivability. Okay, we'll grab that. If I can make it down to another level at this rate. There's the stairs. Go down. I don't need the potion. Oh, we got a troll. Alright, we're gonna try and confuse him and see if I can stop him. Otherwise, we die. I could just run away. And he's gonna basically kill me. We're good. Oh, thank you for that follow. I appreciate it. So I'll go into that in just a moment. This is a tutorial series, so I'll show you, because this is done. This is the last part. We're about to go into something different, and I want to break up. You know what? I could totally go to the next floor and heal again. We'll go into that in just a moment once I finish. Once I finish checking this out real quick, if you don't mind, and then we'll look at what I'm going to be doing next, because it's going to be pretty different. We need to confuse that guy. I took way too much damage. He's no longer confused. We'll confuse him again. I know he's almost dead, but trolls are worth a lot. And we're weak. Okay, what are we at? We are quite a ways from level 3. Just vibing. What kind of work you doing? Actually, yeah, it's kind of chat mode at this point, because I'm not focusing as much on the code at all. Like, we're just kind of just jamming, just playing a little bit. I know Tusk has been hanging out. We are not going to make those kind of monsters, by the way. Not on this. This is a wholesome game. What do we find here? A lightning bolt. That's actually great for a troll. Let's head back. Hey, say hello to my little friend, buddy. Lightning bolt. Yeah. Bop that man. And then there's another troll. Oh, man. So yeah, we're not going to make those kind of monsters here, Tusk, but you could. You can make whatever you wanted. Another lightning bolt. Let's bop this man. Oh! No, it gave me the orc. Okay, that's alright, I guess. I was too focused on trying to hit that dude. What do we have? Another lightning bolt. Okay. Troll, I'm coming for you. Where's it at? There. Now we've leveled up. And I'm going to do more agility. I don't want to, I don't want to take any damage, basically. Taking damage sucks. I don't mind having to wail on a dude for a bit, but if I can, like, not take damage, I can stay alive, obviously. Okay, but it's going to be hard to do that if I got to go through trolls to get to everything. Okay, here we go. Scroll of confusion. I'm good. Let's go to the next floor. Fireball. Sweet. We could bop some dudes with a fireball, right? We could bop a lot of dudes with the fireball here. Hold on. I need y'all to be like that. That's good enough. Let's hit that fireball on the troll. Does not kill them. What else do I have? I have a healing potion. And he's hitting me for like 5 points. That's ridiculous. Dude, there's 3 more? Bro, they're about to kill me. They're about to kill me. Oh, no, no. We got another fireball. Hold up. Why? You want to play? I'll play. Level me up, isn't it? No. Okay, how we looking? Not good. This is a good starting point. I had a lot of fun with this the last time I did this. Well, I was about to say I need lightning bolt. I had a lot of fun with this the last time I did it, but I feel like I've learned a lot here right now that's actually going to be applicable, and it's got me really excited for what I'm about to do next. So that's what I want to talk about. What we've done here is this very... Wait, did it? Oh yeah, it hit. What we've done here is this very... What's the word I would use? From the start, I've tried to make it clear that I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't think there was some value to it. But this is also a very simplified kind of tutorial. We could go a lot more complex and a lot more in-depth. And that's what I want to do. That's kind of my objective for where we go from here. I'm, you know, in the middle of basically trying to expand my knowledge as much as I can when it comes to game development related, you know, information. So this is going to be a lot of different techniques. There's going to be graphics programming involved, which I already am very excited about getting to that, but that's going to be a ways off. There's going to be a lot of like theory and stuff involved. So a lot of much more low level, like how do we go about doing some hardcore procedural generation stuff as I just get myself killed there. How do we do some more hardcore procedural generation kind of stuff? What this game provides is kind of a very simple way to do procedural generation. And I'm interested in something, again, that's much more like theoretical, right? Let's not die. I'm interested in something that's a lot more theoretical and kind of hardcore. So we're going to be taking a look at that tutorial that I've pulled it up a couple times. We're going to pull it up if I can stop looking at this damn game. It actually is fun to play. Like, I'm serious. It's fun to play. As simple as it is. And this didn't take that long. Die, troll. This didn't take that long, but it is fun to play. I'm a big roguelike fan. You know, I've been streaming Cataclysm Dark Days Ahead a lot. So definitely up my alley. Definitely my kind of vibes. And it's fun to be like, yo, I programmed this, right? This is quote unquote mine. All right, we getting all kinds of scrolls and all kinds of goodies now. Heal a little bit, as much as we can. No, bad troll. Bad troll. Orcs are cool because there we go. Yeah, the orcs are cool because they don't hurt me anymore. I'm too strong. Ah, there we are. We leveled up again. Get that defense up. Just keep going for defense. They still hit me for like 3 though. So they're still pretty dangerous, all things considered. Yeah, we got the shield. Take it. So now my defense went up by an extra point, so the troll only does like 2 damage now. Yo, that man is following me through the halls. Boy, get out of here. Okay, I might die. Do I have a lightning bolt? No. Okay, we're still alive. Alright, no, that's it. Okay. We good. Alright, let's stop that. That's distracting. I'm sorry, Brown. I was distracted. But we good now. We backed away from it. We're good. Okay, let's talk about, let's recap everything here, and then I'll really talk about what's next, because I've got it already pulled up from like a couple weeks ago. So let's back up here, because Brown was asking stuff about how long this took, and I've been very clear about this from the beginning. This is not my tutorial. So the purpose of me doing this again, as I was just trying to explain, is I actually did this about 2 years ago, about 2.5 years ago, in probably March or so of 2020. I was very new to Rust at the time. So at that point, there were a lot of things that I didn't really understand. There, how would I put it? Like, there was a lot of the more kind of functional side to the language that I didn't really fully understand. The way they're using like filters and maps and stuff. I didn't have a lot of experience with that. So I was able to follow along with the tutorial, and I felt like I had a decent understanding of it, but it didn't click anywhere near as much that time as it did this time, right? So I gained a lot of information from it here that just gives me some more ideas on things that I can do when I am making my own game. So the real objective here, the real like final push of what I'm going for is making my own game. It may or may not be a roguelike. I don't know yet. I'm building out a design document of ideas, and I want to see how I narrow down those ideas into, they'll shape like what I want to build as my final product, right? So I already knew that I enjoyed doing this before, and I knew that I would hopefully get a lot of valuable information out of redoing it with a lot more Rust under my belt now, as basically this was the first serious thing I ever did in Rust 2.5 years ago. And since then, like, all my code is Rust, so I have a lot more experience, right? That's the point I'm trying to make. But libtcod is a very friendly kind of library. It does a lot of the heavy lifting for you, right? So again, when you ask kind of how long it took, I think this was only 4 streams. And if we scroll down, just to read all the parts, we have graphics, object and map. We have the dungeon, the field of view and exploration, preparing for combat, going berserk, which is actually the combat, the GUI, items and inventory, spells and range combat, main menu and saving, dungeon levels and character progression, monster and item progression, and adventure gear. So today was parts 11, 12, and 13. So when we started today, we did dungeon levels with the character progression, so the character could start leveling up. And we did the monster and item progression. So that was where we basically put weighted tables in for like monster spawns and item spawns and stuff. And then adventure gear is, of course, like the swords and shields and stuff. And, we also kind of put that in the existing system we had for item spawning, which was nice. So this tutorial actually mentions some of the shortcomings of its own tutorial. It says this is based on a Python tutorial, and there are some practices in Python which don't work as well in Rust. So they tried to convert everything as best they could. And because it's short enough, I'm air quoting that, and this is kind of what they say in the tutorial, because it's short enough, it's all in one big file. So there's not like a lot of good organization or anything to the way that the code is actually set up, because it's only, I don't know, like, what is it, 1,500 lines, or I don't know, whatever it is. Let's see. Oh, it's about 2,000 lines. 1960 is my last line. So there's about 2,000 lines. So it's like, we'll just cram it all in one file, but that's obviously not really good organization practice. And there's various things that, I'm looking at it and I say, if I'm making a game, I want to do things a little bit differently, right? But if you're just following the tutorial, trying to get the basics of this, it is a great tutorial. And it's great to give you ideas, right? And kind of teach you some of the basics of the concepts, and let libtcod do a lot of the heavy lifting. Like the FOV map is actually completely handled by libtcod. All we do is we pass it basically a map that we build on our own and say, these are the tiles that you can see through and the tiles you can't see through and all that. And it generates the field of view map for us. So it does all that heavy lifting. We didn't have to understand the real algorithms or anything behind it. And that is good and bad. If you're a new programmer or you're new to something like, game programming or anything of the like, it's probably good that it does a lot of heavy lifting for you to just get you in and let you make something a lot quicker. Especially, imagine if you're in Python, not trying to throw too much shade on Python, but you probably don't care as much about putting together the algorithms. If you're making a game in Python, you want a game library that does a lot of the heavy lifting for you. If you cared about the algorithms, you'd be writing something in Rust or C or C++, right? Some other language. You probably wouldn't be doing that in Python. Just saying, not trying to throw too much shade. But the point that I'm getting to here is, You know, you could do this in a few days, no problem. And it's a lot of fun. But if you want to get a little bit more detailed, that's where we're about to go next, okay? So let me find, where is it? It's still open, but I got too many tabs open because that's just how it always is, right? Here we are. Oh, and by the way, just one more time before we back away from this. Sorry. Before we back away from this, just one more time to give credit, because, you know, I am kind of saying shortcomings of it, but it is a good tutorial. Again, I would not be doing it if I thought it was a waste of time. So just to give credit, Roguelike tutorial in Rust plus tcod. It's on this GitHub link here, tomassedovic.github.io, roguelike /roguelike tutorial. You could Google it easily. If you search for Rust roguelike tutorial, you'd find it. But Tomas Sedovic, again, I think this is a good and worthwhile tutorial to kind of get your feet wet and get into the ideas. But, you know, if you're going to make a full game out of it, you should probably like refactor a lot and kind of make it feel and look more like your own. And that's actually mentioned in this tutorial primer that says sameness. Let me reread this. I'm not throwing shade at the tutorial. The original Python tutorial is a bit infamous because games that people do after going through it all look samey. It's not a reason to shun it. Just don't get caught in the game design of it. The purpose is to teach you how to write a game using libtcod. And there's little of actual game design here. And I say what I recommend is go through this, absorb the concepts, and then start from scratch when you're writing your own. So that's kind of the direction we're going to go. But we're going to go into more tutorials because they look like they're going to be a lot more hardcore, and they look very interesting to me. So now that we're off of that one, this is where we're going next time. Roguelike tutorial in Rust. I have not done this one before. I just found this a couple weeks ago, but I'm very excited about this. It's on, what is this, bfnightly.bracketproductions.com/chapter_0.html. And it looks like, okay, so we'll read the introduction real quick. And this is, again, kind of a primer for what we're going to do next time. So it says, about this tutorial. The tutorial is free and open source, and all code uses the MIT license, so you're free to do with it as you like. My hope is that you'll enjoy the tutorial and make great games. If you enjoy this and would like me to keep writing, please consider supporting my Patreon. Okay. And there's actually a full color paperback and ebook for hands-on Rust that this person has written. Herbert Wolverson. Okay, so every year the fine fellows over at r/roguelike dev run a Tutorial Tuesday series, encouraging new programmers to join the ranks of roguelike developers. Most languages end up being represented, and this year, 2019, so it is a bit older, just like that other tutorial, but shouldn't be a big deal. So this year, 2019, I decided that I'd use it as an excuse to learn Rust. I didn't really want to use libtcod, the default engine, so I made my own, RLTK. My initial entry into the series isn't very good, but I learned a lot from it. You can find it here if you're curious. So they actually link to a game that they made back in 2019. Yeah, 3 years ago on the commits. And, oh yeah, look at this. We can see the maps and stuff. Moving around random maps, generating a nicer map. They got a field of view implemented. Mouse support, variety of mobs. Dijkstra flow map. Okay, see, look, this is why I'm excited. Dijkstra's algorithm, like if you study computer science, you're going to learn about Dijkstra's algorithm, for instance. A star is pathfinding. You learn about that if you take AI courses. It is one of the de facto standards for pathfinding. Very cheap and very easy. Something I've implemented before when I took AI courses. They're loading and saving the game. We got that cool little matrix looking menu here. Some basic particle effects. Okay. Let's see how they look. Oh, nice. Okay, enough of that little sidetrack. So that was what they made in 2019 when they were first learning Rust, and they built their own toolkit and everything. It says the series always points people towards an excellent series of tutorials. The series being the Tutorial Tuesday on Reddit. Points people towards an excellent series of tutorials using Python and libtcod. You can find it here. Section 1 of this tutorial mirrors the structure of this tutorial and tries to take you from zero, how do I open a console to say hello Rust, to hero, equipping items to fight foes in a multi-level dungeon. I'm hoping to continue to extend the series. I also really wanted to use an entity component system. Rust has an excellent one called Specs, so I went with it. I've used ECS-based setups in previous games, so it felt natural to me to use it. It's also a cause of continual confusion on the subreddit, so hopefully this tutorial can shine some light on its benefits and why you might want to use one. I've had a blast writing this and hope to continue writing. Please feel free to contact me. I'm Herberticus on Twitter. If you have any questions, ideas for improvements, or things you'd like me to add. Also, sorry about all the Patreon spam. Hopefully someone will find this sufficiently useful to feel like throwing a coffee or two my way. Okay, so there's the little intro. And what attracted me to this when I started looking at it is we can look at the sections, and there are a lot more sections than what we had in the libtcod tutorial. A whole lot more sections. Like, this is, I don't even want to count them, but we're probably looking at like 4 to 5 times as many sections. So this is going to take a while to go through. And some of this is, you know, kind of standard stuff, like dealing with monsters and all that, right? But when we get to some of these concepts, like I haven't looked at the field of view one, but everything else I've looked at seems to be a lot more theoretical. So I think we're going to get a little bit more theoretical in these tutorials and actually talk about how you build these things from scratch rather than using a pre-existing, and maybe not here, we're doing RLTK for a view shed, but I think we are going to get a very tutorial or very theoretical on a lot of this. So if we take a look here at the map generation, this is one of the things that caught my eye was wave function collapse. This is a common technique that's used for procedural generation, and I'm like, oh, we're like really getting into the weeds here. We're really getting into the theory behind what you might be doing if you're making something like procedural maps. And the fun thing is that these concepts can be used for more than just a roguelike, right? Because all that like a game is just data, right? And you can apply these kind of concepts to any data. You can have a 3D world that's using wave function collapse. So if you learn how to do this concept here with like this much more in-depth series, you can then apply that to another game that's in 3D or something if you want it, right? If you actually understand the concept. And so that's what actually has me really excited about doing this, is like just by skimming through it, it looks like it's going really, really in depth in these concepts. It looks like this person has a really good handle on, a lot of the game dev concepts, and that's what I'm looking to gather from this. So that's where we're going to be going from here. I see this right now. BSP is binary space partitioning. That's a classic technique that, was used all the way back in Doom. So it's a big deal, right? These are real techniques that are used in all kinds of games, and we're going to be breaking these techniques down. To contrast, the other series that we just finished had a very simple and somewhat naive map generation system that works. Brown Disappointment comes in and says, hey, this looks cool. This looks really fun, because it works. But if you want to make something much more complex, this is where it seems like a next logical step, right? That's the point I'm trying to make here. The other system works. This is going to be way more hardcore. And that's right up my alley. So Voronoi hive maps. I don't even know what that is. Is Voronoi like having holes and stuff in it, I think? Subdivides it into regions, places walls between them. It's a bit like a hive. Yeah. Look at this. We could see this animated map generation here. And this is good for like caves and stuff, probably. I love that. They're using Manhattan distance and all kinds of, yeah. And what I noticed when I skimmed through this a little bit is they seem to have a really good module system for their code base. They were like importing a bunch of modules and all that, and they're separating it into different files, which is going to also be like very, very nice when you're going into much more in-depth concepts, that you're not cramming everything into one line. We have AI. So we actually, like, we're we see here at some point, way down the line, we build a town, and I think we get to see what the town kind of looks like. A lot of this reminds me of, Dwarf Fortress, which I've played a lot of. We see here, like, the buildings are popping into the town, and now they have doors, and they're building paths. So now we've got paths to doors being added. And you can walk out. Look, here we are walking out of a building and exploring the pathways and exploring the town. And then we populate the town in the next session. So we add, like, oh, we got a pub and stuff. So we're going to have different buildings showing up. We have a temple. So this is, again, this is getting really in depth. Living bystanders. So we're going to have, like, AIs in the town, well, NPCs that we can deal with. Further bring things to life, let's allow NPCs to quip when they'll talk. Yeah, they'll talk when they spot you. So here we have an AI that's a bystander, and we'll have quips and say, quiet down, it's too early. Oh my, I drank too much. Still saving the world, eh? Little things they'll say when they see you. That's cool. Yeah, I'm excited about this. So I can go on with this for like an hour. I'm not going to. I am curious about one thing, though. I am curious about the AI bystander. We're matching on strings. I'd rather do on enums or something. We'll deal with it. I noticed that the AI was defined as a string, and I was like, ooh, but an enum would be better if we're going to have different variants of AIs. That way, when we're matching on it, we can guarantee that we're, if we add a new variant or something, that we have to account for it. Yeah, we'll deal with it. We'll see how it goes. Either way, it looks like there's a lot of cool stuff going on here. Like we have the different AI systems and all that. A visibility system. Yeah, like this is just getting me excited. I can't wait. It's going to take a while. And one more thing I want to say about this is I want to try to take this at a reasonable pace. So I don't know how much I'm going to aim to do every session, but I don't want to just try to like cram and rush this out as fast as possible. I want to take this slow and actually try to absorb and really understand the information. So I will, if I run across a piece of code and I'm like, oh, wait a minute, what is this? This doesn't, I want to try to make sure I understand it. Or if there's a weird concept or something in some of these when they get into like the theory, I want to make sure I understand that, because my objective is to go and build a game of my own, and I want to absorb as much information that I can use as possible, right? So we're going to just take that into account here and not try to rush this out, not try to say, oh, I really want to get to that stuff down in like section 4 or 5 or whatever. I really, really want to get into that. So let me just try to, rush through this, copy paste everything, because then you're not going to learn, right? So as much as I do want to see some of that cool stuff, we got to go through the basics. We got to build up to it. So yeah, there we go. That's what's going to happen next time. So I don't know what else to say. I just kind of like rambling, and I'm excited. I'm ready to go. But I won't be doing this until Wednesday. So that gets me into the bit of wrap up stuff. If there's any questions or comments or anything, I'm gonna do like a little wrap up outro, but then I can address any questions or comments or whatever when I finish that. So as I usually say, thank you to anyone who showed up, and whether you're lurking or chatting or whatever, I really appreciate it. Oh, that's all good. No questions, that's fine. But this is gonna be cool. So yeah, thank you to anyone who showed up, whether you're lurking and chatting or whatever. If you are new and you want to see more of this, go ahead and hit that follow button like Brown did earlier. I do these coding streams on Mondays and Wednesdays. Every other day I do gameplay stuff. So right now I am playing Cataclysm Dark Days Ahead. I'm playing Crackdown, and I am playing Source of Madness. I have some other stuff coming down the pipeline that I'm really excited for, but we'll get to that when we get there. If you're watching this in the future on YouTube, congrats on being in the future. Do all that fun YouTube stuff. You can lick that like button, kick that subscribe button, and that notification bell. Leave me a comment. especially on these videos. What I really ask for is like, good feedback, constructive criticism or feedback or whatever. Again, part of the issue though, when following a tutorial, the first handful of coding streams I did were my own code, and I'm like, I'm going to build a thing today. And constructive feedback or whatever makes a lot of sense there for sure. It's a little harder to do on a tutorial when it's like somebody else's code. But, any comments how I can maybe make it work better or something, like make the presentation better or anything, I definitely appreciate. I want this to be as good as it can be. So definitely I do read my YouTube comments. So any good feedback or whatever, I would appreciate that. And then I've already kind of said my schedule, so that's all good and done. Yeah, I don't think I have much else to say. So until next time, have a good day, have a good night, whatever it is, wherever you're at. Take it easy. I had something in my hand. I can't hit the button while I'm still pointing, so I had to put it down. I failed. Take it easy. I will see you Wednesday as well. Glad to hear you'll be back.
Raiden, what's your status?
Colonel, I've got Emma Emmerich here. We've managed to avoid drowning.
Good job.